Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks to the one and only David, and of course, thanks to Summit for being there today. And of course, thanks to the audience being here today. We had the pillars where we asked the tough questions the community wants to know, but maybe too afraid to ask sometimes. All the questions are from the community and I ask with the intent to ensure we can protect investors as well as help protocols grow and succeed. Today, already just by the names you guys already knew who will be in, of course, of the title, the one and only Titano. Already a protocol that has been around, especially for the DeFi and crypto space for a long time now. And I'm very excited for this one. They have very special news to announce, and we're just going to talk about everything related to them, to DeFi, and how they are doing things. Thanks again, and I will just shut up now and leave the stage. Enjoy, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Yeah. How are you, gentlemen? Good to have you here.
Excellent. Thank you, Mad Hatter. Great to talk to you. And we are really, really excited to be here.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Pleasure. Sorry, I jumped in too early then. I'm very excited for this one. This is going to be a really good conversation, and hopefully I can strong arm you guys into some alpha at some point. If not, I'm just going to tire you guys out until you concede defeat. So I suppose let's kind of just get straight into it. But before we do, Summit, I've heard you speak on that it's important to recognize where you've come from in order to understand where you're going. So can you guys give a brief overview of what Titano is? I'm sure the majority of the people in here already know, but if you could just give a very brief overview of what it is and just how you both individually came to get involved with the project.
Got it. Summit, do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, you go first. I'll follow after you on that.
Okay. Titano is a DeFi protocol. At the heart of it is something called the Titano auto staking protocol, which auto staking is a type of, it's a rebasing token. And it is the OG rebasing token. It is the one that started the trend of all of these rebasing tokens. It has been copied, that we're aware of, more than 220 times. The protocol has been copied, which is more than I think that any other protocol we've looked at has been copied. And the reason is simple. What is a great challenge when you are building a cryptocurrency project is the first stage, right? How are you going to attract and hold investors? When I got into crypto and DeFi, I was amazed at how quickly projects would grow and then crash. And I realized that there was a sort of a tone or feeling around the space that dominated investor attitudes. And that was, you get in early and you get out before all the liquidity's gone. And I also realized that was a real big challenge for projects, right? Because how can you plan, how can you build, when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow? And so I initially got involved with Titano as an investor because we were all coming out of the Olympus DAO Time Wonderland era that turned out to be a debacle. And there were a lot of disenchanted investors who thought that they understood how the Time Wonderland or the Olympus DAO protocol worked. And it turned out to be inaccurate, right? It was supposed to be if the price fell, the APY would shoot up, and then that would bring in more investors. And what actually happened was when the price fell below this particular level, it just kept falling and the APY didn't go up. And it became obvious to me that the protocol was designed to build these large treasuries, not to serve investor interests. So I was looking around the space for someone who was looking to innovate Olympus DAO. And I ran into this little tiny project with these 3 devs. And, they were in a Telegram group explaining some things about this protocol. They were going to fix the APY at 102,000%. And I said, these guys are crazy and I love them. And I got in the chat and was interacting with them and trying to see how much, first of all, how serious they were about trying to do this, and then how much they knew. And I was really enchanted by the project. And So ended up investing in the project. The project went up spectacularly initially and came down just as spectacularly. And parts, I was really, really disappointed because it was a project that I felt had a really good opportunity. And so my background is in new business development, new project development, traditional markets, right? So all around the world, a lot of different industries. And I like building things and I don't mind tough challenges. And so I went to my partner, John, who's my partner in the crypto space. And I said, John, I got this crazy little project that I'm in. And I think we can offer our skill sets and we can turn this thing around. And I was new to crypto, and John, who'd been here a long time and been probably done 40 project launches at that point, said to me, David, I love you. This is a tough one. And I said, I like these guys. I like what they're doing. I think they're on to something. Let's get in and help them turn it around. And we did. We reached out to the guys and said, look, here's our skill sets, here's our resumes. We have a vision for how we can turn this project with your help into what we think you guys want it to be. This was approximately a week after the project had launched. And since that time, we've been working alongside the devs. Summit came on shortly thereafter, and he's been an invaluable resource. So Titano, what rebasing is it's a way. So the first stage of a crypto project is the distribution phase. That's the phase where you want to get your tokens out into the people's hands so that then as you build up your economy, they can then utilize those tokens within the economy. So initially the auto staking, the rebasing part of it is a great way. I think one of the best ways of getting token distribution because it consistently puts tokens in people's wallets on a regular basis. But also there's a psychological component to it as well, right? What happens is when people start seeing a consistent amount of tokens, right? Because that's the issue that happened with Time Wonderland, right? And with Olympus DAO and all those forks, the amount of emissions went down substantially. And so did everyone's, mental state at that point. So when Titano fixed that APY, it said that every 30 minutes, you are guaranteed that X amount of tokens will be in your wallet. There didn't need to be any promises by the crew. There didn't need to be any trust me, this is going to happen. It was consistent. And it gave people a sense of, it gave them a sense of knowing what was to come, what was to happen. And, I think we were all realizing the power of it as it was happening. And I think what we did really well was we sort of took that on and used it as a foundation to build the project. So from that, we built this amazing community. Summit has been, he's for lack of a better word, one of the things that he does a bunch of things, but he's the guy that manages the community elements of Titano. So he, manages the mods, he sets everything up from a technical standpoint. And then he makes sure that interaction between the community and the project is at the highest level, right? We talk about it all the time. It needs to be, we the phrase I throw around is, we recognize that, the community needs to be part of your protocol, right? Because these projects, they're actually two projects at the same time. There's whatever you're building, and then there's your community management, right? And if either isn't up to par, then you're going to have a problem. So Titano became this auto staking, and it was a phenomenon. And all of a sudden, we saw copy after copy after copy after copy. Right. I said this before that, Titano has, if you go on YouTube, there are more than 1,500 Titano videos about the project. We've paid for 5. So it just took off. And, as a result, I'm sorry.
No, go on, Ati.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so as a result of that, we've gone through this amazing 16-month journey. And, and here we are in the middle of a pivot. So that hopefully gives you a bit of an overview of it. Same team, same core team, all of this time, same people. And what I'm most proud of, I think, is, number one, our community, number two, our commitment, going through a tough market. I was in a Twitter space yesterday, and someone said, we had the benefit of a flying market. Titano's never been in a bull market. Titano's never been. We caught the tail end. If you look at when the market started falling, it was November 2021, which is when Titano launched. So, it's been all of that, falling market, trying to figure out things on the fly, which is crypto. But yeah, it's been really, really exciting, a lot of fun too.
It's nice to hear you say that it's been exciting and fun, because I know that the community members are going to throw all sorts of problems in your direction by way of unhappiness, frustration, irritation.
Yes.
There are going to be suggestions that are extraordinarily helpful. There are going to be things that are unhelpful. And one of the things you've already touched on, and we'll speak about this, is that you very much see the community and you're now managing the community as a separate business, as a separate entity. And I think that's a very healthy way to A, look at a community, a project's community, and B, a project itself. And it's an underrated way of looking at it. And it should really excite a lot of your community members, because it tells them that they are very much at the forefront of what you're doing, what you're designing, what you have in place, and how you might go about releasing information. So when people do get frustrated, it's understandable, because they're thinking from a very singular perspective. Whereas when you're looking at it as a business, you're looking at it from multiple perspectives, and you're managing these 33,000 people that sit in your space.
Right. Well said.
Titano itself is obviously known and comes from a place where it's kind of shrouded with drama, for lack of a better word, right? It has a whole bunch of stuff that sits behind it that people can reference, and again, negatively, while very comfortably and easily being able to overlook all of the positives that it brings. And again, rebasing is something we'll touch on, and one of the questions I will ask you soon is whether or not you guys believe rebasing is misunderstood. Because I've heard you talk about the dopamine effect, and I've heard you talk about what it does for the investor and how interested it keeps the investor and how much it brings them in. But before all of that, what was your biggest challenge for both of you when you guys decided, right, we need to start in the short term pivoting, but long term restructuring to something that A, the community is going to get on board with, B, they're going to understand, but most importantly, they're going to get behind because they're extremely excited that it's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Summit, let me go first, and I definitely want you to weigh in on this. So please,
Yeah.
Matt Hatter, give him a chance.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
His perspective is definitely going to be different than mine. So, one of the things that is impossible to anticipate, right, is how you're going to grow in this space. So what we did really well, right, in the beginning is we control the narrative around Titano, right? And we focused on that extraordinarily hard, right? So what does that mean? It meant that the mods were trained extraordinarily well to give deep and detailed answers about the protocol. We focused on building organically. Right. A lot of the first probably 45,000 holders, the vast majority of them knew something about Titano and were interested in learning more when they came into the Discord. So we had all of these very interested people in, hey, what are you guys doing? And, Summit was doing such a great job in managing the community that I used to say, if you came into the Titano Discord and you asked a question, before the mods could answer, the community would answer, and they'd be accurate. So we had this ideal situation going, but what happened was the project overheated. And I remember that time because all of a sudden we had a lot of people in our chats and they weren't necessarily interested in the project. There were just a bunch of memes and gifs, win Lambo, win, and we never had that before. Oddly enough, and all of a sudden it was dominating. And then we, right during that time, I remember this Summit, we had a bot attack. And, some bots came into the Discord and promised that there was a Titano airdrop. And everyone, all the older holders knew that we would never, and we certainly listed all of that. No one read any of those notes. And the next thing you know, a lot of people got scammed. And then this message was going around about, well, maybe it's Titano, maybe the protocol's broken. And it was utter chaos. And then PancakeSwap for the first time did a major dump of the Titano token. You had the guys that had stolen all these tokens dumping, and it was chaos. And through all of that, we were trying to, restore order, but we were also, again, trying to maintain that narrative. And you got to remember, there was a new rebasing token coming out every day or every other day, and
Right.
people and 25% of that marketing, their marketing was we're the next Titano, we're better than Titano. Titano's done. And it was really, really challenging to manage the community and their sentiment. And I know for sure because I saw how the questions I was getting changed. And then this conversation, you're going to bring it up later, this conversation around rebasing happened. And I was realizing that a lot of people who had bought the token didn't understand rebasing. So now we had to switch our narrative. All these things were going on. So for me, the most difficult thing continues to be communicating effectively what we're doing, right? Cutting through a lot of the misinformation, but doing it in such a way, because the disadvantage that like we have is if someone brings a question to me, right? There's always this assumption that I'm going to answer to try and protect the protocol. I'm going to answer to try and protect the devs. I understand that. But it puts me at a disadvantage when I say that question you're asking me is based on misinformation, right? And even if I explain it, because yeah, David, of course you're going to say that. Well, that's not necessarily true. I tell the Titans, I'm a Titan first. I'm a holder here. I've got friends and family in this protocol, right? I love this project. And if there is an issue or question or a comment or anything that's accurate, I want to talk about it. But there's a lot of misinformation in this space. I mean, we've had situations where other projects have sent people into our Discord or Telegram to try and crash the project. And that's something, when your hands are already full, it's just a challenge. So for me, it's been, and it always is, how do we maintain and manage sentiment with the community? One more thing I want to add to that. So I always talk about what's the real important thing when a project collapses, right? And I always point it back to one thing. Like you could say, well, this happened and that happened. Like if you look at Terra, and then he depegged and blah, blah, blah. And what happened? And the community ran away, right? The community sentiment changed and everybody ran. So for me, it's really, really simple. If you don't have that community giving you the benefit of the doubt, then you're going to lose your project. Doesn't matter how great your protocol is, doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter how well you speak, doesn't matter how great a dev you are. So for me, it always ends up going back to that. And as we're pivoting, that's where all the care is being taken. There's so much communication with the community about what and why and how we're doing this. Where's this coming from? Yep. Because of that reason. Because the moment people start running, they all start running. And right. So my final note on that. So we've been fortunate. The token's down 99%. We've lost less than 15% of our holders. So we're really, really proud of that. And it speaks to, I think, again, the care and concern that we have around the community. This stuff is not easy. I don't care what role you're playing. If you're an investor, you're nervous as hell. You got all this FUD coming from outside the industry, inside the industry, people talking about Titano. So yeah, that would be my answer. I'm going to turn it over to you, Summit.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, similarly, I would agree on that. I mean, I think with the biggest difficulty when pivoting and making huge changes, you can change tokenomics. Tokenomics are something easy to change. You can make a new edition, come out with a new utility, change up a feature, add a tax. All those are easy things. But it's the community that really is the most difficult aspect. It's all the people who've come in, the people who've put their faith, their money, their trust into you, into your project. And I think that is the most difficult thing to manage when you're going through such a huge change. I know when I came back on the team, I was an investor from day one, and I joined the team officially as part of the core around like March or April. But leading up to that time there, I mean, I was really in the chats all the time. I was talking to every single person, watching everybody get excited, watching everybody get hyped and things like that, and that hype generation. And then kind of how you talked about, we had those bot attacks, we had those drops in value, we had the panic, the fear, everything that came with that. And I mean, a lot of that is the biggest factor in what makes or breaks a project. Is that community? Is, do they stick behind you in those moments? You know, do they still have that trust and that faith? Or does that trust and that faith wane a little bit? And I'm happy to say, I mean, still, even through all of those moments, you know, we still have such a huge community. We still have such a big support that's in our chats and our channels. And I look at those titans that are in there every day, who are chatting every single day, wondering what's next, what's going on. They're my objective. You know, they're the people that I want to make sure succeed in life and have a good experience with our protocol, and that we can, you know, help increase their value and things like that. And when you're pivoting, you're making these changes, you know, you're changing those tokenomics. You're asking yourself, is this something that will benefit them? Is this something that will benefit them not in just the short term, but the long term of things? When we hear these suggestions about, you know, you guys should do this, you know, you guys should do that. I don't know why we didn't do this, you know, 2 months ago. All of it has to be very carefully planned and very carefully looked at. You know, it's so easy to make a change on the fly, but you have to look at, that's just one person in a huge group, you know, of 30,000 people in the Discord channel, 17,000 in the Telegram, where you take advice from one person, but does the other 32,000 people like that? And it's just the most difficult part is finding that balance, striking that balance, making sure that the switch, no pun intended, you know, that you're going to make here is valuable for everybody. And I think is really the biggest difficulty I found, is hearing all of the community members, where we're at, what they're used to, and transitioning them essentially to something completely new, but bringing back that energy, that excitement, making sure it brings that value going forward. Right.
Great response. And I'm perhaps going to give you maybe a rare opportunity to not have to be all glossy and nice, Summit. From your personal point of view, because I say this almost in every Q&A, because I really mean it. People always forget there are human beings that sit behind these protocols that, you know, for better or for worse, have to shoulder a lot of responsibility. And some will run, some will hide, some will rug, some will lie to get themselves away from where they are, and some, like yourselves, will persevere and build out and continue to push. And with that comes a lot of personal stress. How hard has it been, just from your personal point of view, to really navigate that journey? Because I can't imagine it's particularly easy when people are throwing not just, you know, the ideas at you, but a lot of criticism, probably tagging you hundreds of times a day, pointing fingers, blame, you know, the blame game. How did you deal with that from a personal standpoint?
Fair enough. I would be lying to say that there aren't days that, you know, are overwhelming and stressful, with so many, you know, questions and so many tags and so many notifications that happen. But I would also say that I never take anything if somebody were to come at me personally. I look at everybody, you know, and I hope they look the same way back at me as just another person. You know, we're two human beings out here with a common goal of trying to make it in this space and make it an exciting space, right? And I think it's important to realize too that when you're in this crypto space, that, you know, there's a lot of questions that fly. There's a lot of opposing viewpoints, a lot of opinions, a lot of arguments that happen. And I mean, you just have to, in a sense, go outside and smell the flowers every so often. You know, take yourself out, disconnect a little bit. Because if you sit there and you get all entwined with you know, the nonstop questions, the discussions, the arguments, things like that, you are going to go down a tunnel that's just never going to end. You know, you're going to get so wrapped up in these arguments, so wrapped up in these pains and this stress. And I've never found myself in a position where I just have to, you know, get away and I'm done. I can't do this anymore, because I like to separate myself a little bit. You know, I keep my personal life. I go out, I enjoy life. I come back with that same exciting energy. And when I have these people who, you know, come in, and there's a difference, I would say, between people who are genuinely concerned about their investment, who are genuinely concerned about what next steps look like, and people who are just coming to poke the bear, right? I think we all know that. And you don't get tied up in the people who just want to poke the bear, because the people who just want to poke the bear aren't here, for the long haul. They're not here to see your project succeed. They're not here to see their investment succeed. They just want to see drama for the sake of drama. I'm here to see the people who have genuine concerns, who are here venting because they don't know what's next. And even if they come at me or they have something that sounds offensive, I'm here to listen. I'm here because I understand there's a person behind there. I understand that they made an investment, and that they're concerned about that. And I listen to that wholeheartedly and want to make sure that they feel heard, that they understand that we're here the entire time, and that we're all going through this together, and that our goal, is not to just brush them off. Our goal is to bring them up, to bring that excitement back up, bring that value back up for them. But I would say on a term of stress level, I wouldn't say it's really there. I wouldn't say there's ever times where it gets so overwhelming that I don't think anybody on the team ever has gotten to a point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. This person really got to me. I've never gotten in a position like something like that. I think it's just more of realizing that we're all human in this space. Like you said, there's a person behind each and every device that we're talking through. And just realizing, all those different opinions, all those different ideas are going to be present, and just managing them, making sure that you're still going out there, taking some time to live your own life outside of crypto. Because that's, crypto's one great space, but you also have to enjoy the space outside of it.
Great response, great pushback. And I again, it speaks to the level of commitment that you guys have to wanting to make this succeed. And now you've kind of gone over the hill where we're on that snowball effect where things are going to become very exciting and start to snowball into the next story of yours, which is, obviously going to be Swytch. And that's going to be huge for you guys. We're going to be kind of moving into that discussion shortly, but I did want to say, one of the dramas obviously that surrounds you guys is, of course, the infamous sell-off that happened. And then you've got these, and I don't mean it disparagingly to them, but you'll always have kind of pseudo experts that create videos that state things that aren't necessarily true. And that all helps to spread this kind of story that is incorrect. You'll then have people that try and take your unique idea and do it better, or they claim to do it better. And as you said, David, that their selling point is we're better than Titano. And amongst all of that is this rebasing element that is potentially totally misunderstood. You're moving towards switching it off. How did the thought process behind switching it off come about? And how are you going to combat that misinformation moving forward with Swytch and how you're moving into that?
Great question. So what Titano has always had is a vision, right? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What do we see? Where are we going? And when I did my early AMAs, I always started with the vision, right? And the vision is we believe that this project could become a foundational project in DeFi. When I approach, whether it's consulting a business or someone in the crypto space, there's always the why has to be there. Why does someone need what you have? I don't feel comfortable just being one of the pack. And I felt that what was missing in DeFi was at the time, people looking at a project, not just from the standpoint of the project operating as an island unto itself, but integrating with other areas of crypto and outside of crypto to create a firm foundation for itself. So one of the reasons, for example, that the community was so important is I used to talk about we're going to build this community to a point where we'll be able to deploy that community around the crypto space. Great example would be, oh gosh, I'm having a brain dump. My apologies, but metaverse. So there's this story around the metaverse where everyone's going to be in there and everyone's going to have fun. I don't know if you guys have experienced the metaverse. As a user, it's a zero to me. Now, I get the business aspect. I'll be able to go in the metaverse, buy a taxi in the metaverse, take people around the metaverse in my taxi, and charge them real crypto for that. I get it, but I don't get the pull for the actual buyer. like the person that's buying my taxi if the metaverse, there's nothing there for me. And so one of the things I used to talk about is imagine if we could deploy our community to those metaverse projects. Like if we went to the sandbox and said, you need people, and we've got people. Let's do a business deal where we'll fill your metaverse with our titans and you find a way to compensate us. Right. So that's a new use. That's a new type of project that didn't exist at the time. And I said, we could also do that outside of crypto. I used to talk about we need to imagine if we could go to Elon Musk and say, we've got 20,000 Titans that want to buy Teslas and we want a discount and we want them to be able to buy it in Titano. That's what when we looked at what the potential vision was or where we were going, and it sparked people's interest. Boy, that's really, really interesting. Well, we never left that vision. The challenge is, crypto projects are difficult to manage, difficult to maintain. Everything's changing, and the bear market started coming, and all of a sudden, this phenomenal growth that we'd seen. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute. Stopped, but the vision remained. And so, in terms of what went and stayed, and how we decided to pivot, and what we decided on, it was to maintain that vision. First of all, everything got put on the table. Everything that Titano was doing got put on the table. And then there were several different sort of pillars, no pun intended, or maybe it was a pun intended, that we were sort of holding on to and we weighed everything against. And if it stuck, then it stayed. And if it didn't, then it didn't. And that's why so from that standpoint, it made deciding what to do easier. For instance, Titano has been and I use this word carefully because I don't use it in a negative way, but it's just a way to describe it. It's been a sort of a fringe DeFi project, right? It's been, now they call them degen projects, right? Titano's always been that. So moving forward, we said in order to grow the community, like to these 500,000 people, which is the goal, we need to be more in the center of DeFi, right? To grow the community, one of the challenges with Titano is I would get in conversations and I'd have to explain the protocol all the time. David, how do you guys, 483.58%, are you guys crazy? So my first 10 minutes would always be, well, let me tell you what we're doing. So that became too difficult with all the negativity that you mentioned. So it was like, okay, we've got to look at all of these products. Rebasing is a product, and we have to weigh their effectiveness going forward against what our vision is. Is it part of the vision? And that having that foundation, right? Having the vision in place, having these pillars in place about what we wanted to see, made it easy to help us decide what moves to make going forward. And the third element of that was just listening to the community. I would say to the community, we had a suggestion area in Discord and Telegram, all the mods were taking, we were getting so much information about what the community wanted to see, what they thought was important. And all of that information was being taken in, sorted through, given to the devs, and looked the stuff that was good to be included in what was going forward. So it was a formulated process that we were following, again, with the goal of executing on that vision, right? Sometimes you have a vision and you reach a point and you go, we can't do this. That never happened with us. It never happened with us. When the price started falling, see, Titano, it's interesting. It was a weird situation, right? Because the market was going down and Titano was flying. And people started saying, man, maybe this is a project that can go up even if the market's falling. And I would say, no, that's not true. We're in a Goldilocks period with this project, with this euphoria going on. But we've got to be prepared that won't always be the case. And it was a challenge. And once the price started falling, no matter what was happening, the price would bounce back up. And on our side, we were communicating how are we going to manage the story around when the price falls. But every company would love to be able to have that. Every project would love to be able to have that. And hardly any of them get it. And we certainly didn't get it, right? There were all these elements coming, as you mentioned, all of this negativity, a lot of misinformation around what we were doing, what rebasing was, Titano's future, all of these things. And it created what I think is, I fail to think of the type of person with with a particular or any set of skill sets that could have managed that process so that it didn't have a negative impact on the project at the time. So what we did was interesting. What happened was at one point we just sort of capitulated on that side, meaning we looked at and we said, what do we need to focus on to ensure that we will get through this period and be in a position to reach to execute our vision. And it just put your head down, keep working, because every project that we all love in this space has one theme, and that is they just put their heads down and they kept working. So that was the focus. Just put your head down and keep working, right? People are going to say things, all of this stuff. It's going to keep coming, right? Misinformation, you can't stop it. And I'm always open for information, good, bad. Like I say all the time, if you listen to any of the AMAs, I'm like, comments, criticisms, compliments, whatever you want, we're interested in hearing it, right? But It's challenging at times, right? Because I also believe that it's difficult to assess a project unless you know what's going on with the project. And I would always say, if I saw a YouTube video, I'd go, how in the world could this person be so brilliant about Titano and they never reached out to Titano? I mean, if I was going to do, when Max Mayer, right, got 1 million followers, he did a video on Titano. What did he do? He came into the chat and started asking questions. I mean, how can you do a whole 20-minute, 30-minute video about a project and you never reached out to the devs? Hey guys, I don't understand this about Titano. Can someone explain it to me? So I would say, okay, great, but it didn't make sense to me, so I would ignore it, right? And when the information came to me, I go, great, what are they basing their, how do they know what the mindset is when they haven't even had a conversation? So what are they basing it on? But with all of this said, what we learned through this process is that sometimes perception is reality. And it didn't matter what we knew or what we were saying, because I can tell you, we got hit with a tsunami of misinformation, negative information, Titano's falling because of rebasing. I mean, it was just going on and on and on again. And it became impossible for us to, not just impossible, right? But it was dangerous, right? Because it was reaching that point where it was like, you guys don't want to listen. And that wasn't true. Right. But I would say to people all the time, you want us to respond to data, not feelings and hearsay. You want us to respond to data. Give me some data. Back up what you're saying. If we, there was a discussion around, you guys are on rebasing too long. And I would say, what measure are you using to determine that? Name the project that got off rebasing earlier and is thriving. Point it out to me. Just point it out to me. Our move from rebasing was clear. We need to have some, rebasing is extraordinarily compelling, right? From a physical standpoint from an emotional standpoint. I used to have people calling me saying, David, I can't sleep because I'm waiting for that 30-minute bounce, that 30-minute bounce of tokens in my wallet, right? That's an emotional thing. So we knew if we're going to move away from that very powerful product, right, that's been forked more than 220 times and all these people doing videos and all of this stuff, and it's a conversation of DeFi, we had to have something amazingly compelling. And it took time. The market kept falling. When you develop, right, a lot of the stuff that's coming out is software. And so you get an idea, you say, this is an idea we're considering, we want to put it in the market. But quite often when you get it out in the market, by the time you get it out, the market's in a different position. What does that mean? Investor sentiment is in a different position. A great example is the lottery. The lottery was developed, right, to be the biggest lottery in DeFi, in crypto, and it was designed for people to FOMO into Titano, right? It was designed to build. We wanted to get the jackpot up to over $1 million, and we wanted people to go, screw Titano, I want that money. By the time we built it, the market had changed. And all of a sudden, people were going $5 for a lottery. I'm not so sure about that. So it looked like, well, what are you guys doing? Well, we're trying to keep building and we're trying to keep growing and we're trying to. So it from the outside, right, there's a lot of, or there can be. And let me say this to you. I don't think Titano's gotten any more criticism than any other project that's been around for a while. Right? They all get criticism, right? People come to me, man, did you see what they wrote on CoinMarketCap? I go, Yeah, but look at these other 10 projects and the same things happen. So I don't think we've been unfairly singled out. But the point I make about it is it's challenging because we've got more information. We're looking at data. We're like, as I said earlier, you don't want us to move on emotions. You want us to have data, look at the data, assess what's going on, and then make a decision.
And it also, sorry to interject, but it also plays into your approach that the community is a business and it has to be managed, and therefore you've taken a particular line that you need to manage it by, and that is a fairly open, transparent line in that you will discuss everything with everyone, and trying to get rid of as few people as possible because you openly want those questions. And you pointed out, and rightly so, that people will create content with that misinformation that can be heard by quite a lot of people without even reaching out and just knocking on your door and saying, hey, I'm really curious to know what you guys are doing. I want to do a video. I'm not going to give you the context of how the video is going to be, but I'd love to know answers to these questions. Could you give me those, please? And when people don't, and maybe it's ego, maybe it's fear, maybe it's embarrassment, who knows? When they don't, and then they put content out there, it obviously creates an uphill battle for you when you then have people that will watch those videos. One of the questions. One more
thing on it. It doesn't just create an uphill battle for us; it creates an uphill battle for everybody. All the projects, all the investors, because now you don't have accurate information. And that's the bigger issue. Put Titano to the side, right? We need to get accurate information coming out. And that was one of the things that, that was disparaging, because that was my conversation. I was like, wait a minute, you don't want to let anyone just say anything about anybody, because then everyone's confused. So that was the larger issue about all of this stuff. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. You make a very good point, and absolutely, you should have interjected. Yes, it's an uphill battle for everybody, and actually, first and foremost, the investors, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they are the only people that are going to suffer. Is the people that hold the token and lose the value, and essentially can lose their money. So no, you're spot on with that. One of the questions that's going to be asked is, why has it taken so long to turn rebasing off? And I think you've kind of touched on it already with that last answer, in that rebasing isn't something that you can just toggle on and off. And there are going to be people that, I'm sure, and I've heard you speak on it in another AMA, that people will come to you and say, well, if you turn this off, I'm going to leave. I'm not interested in the project. Versus those that scream, turn it off because it's no good. And then you've got the misinformation, and mixed into all of that, you've got these other projects that famously collapsed because of rebasing. Not because of rebasing, but because of how they've managed that rebasing protocol.
Correct.
So I'm sure you're going to say, well, it isn't that we took so long; it was that we were weighing up options. But for lack of a better phrasing, and you can tell me off for phrasing it this way, why did it take so long to come to the conclusion we want to turn it on?
That's an excellent question. So, the answer to it you alluded to earlier, right? There are people behind these protocols. Titano has 3 devs who are brilliant. But the thing I love most about them is that they are fearless, right? They jumped into this little project. As I said, when I reached out to them at the height of their dismay, and John and I said, you guys have to turn these things over to us and let us manage them, to with our own devices, and they did it. And every question, every comment, every accusation, and there have been dozens, we've brought to them, we've always gotten an answer. Well, I don't want to answer. Listen, guys, and I don't think people realize it's sometimes in that chat, it's a direct question. Look, people are saying you guys are stealing money and this is the way you're doing it. Explain why that's not happening. And they answer it. And I say to people, you've never seen one negative comment by these guys on any social platform since this project has been going. They haven't said anything negative about anyone, not another project, another person. And it's constant accusations and slamming and all this stuff that are baseless, right? So what at the same time, you're dealing with personalities. So think about it from my standpoint. I got a lot of experience in traditional business, building businesses, consulting business, big companies. I consulted Apple Computer, Universal Studios, all these people, and small businesses, mom and pops as well. We have to manage these personalities through this project, right? Three guys, young guys, built a protocol that started at $450,000. That's what Titano launched at, and went up to 280 million. Right? Think about the mental of what's going on through all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm trying to do with all of this is that's happening is keep these guys calm, keep them committed, keep them focused, keep them, hey guys, look, we're still at the beginning. Right? Don't take your foot off the pedal now. Right. So through all of this, everyone's maturing. Right? You learn on these projects. Right now, it's easy to say, well, in hindsight, is always you should have gotten out then, right? But as you're going through it, there are so many factors going on. Like I told you, when we announced for 2 months, I learned we have to do this. I've been putting in the chats, hey guys, big change is coming. Well, David, what do you mean? Just what I said, big change is coming. Well, can you give us more of a hint? Just be prepared for big change. Change is good and it's coming. And after a while, I did it so much, people were going, well, wait a minute, when you say change, like you're not talking about turning off rebasing, are you? And I said, everything's on the table because it has to be. And I was trying to get a conversation going, and it worked, right? In the chats, well, if they turn off rebasing, that's a good thing. Well, no, they better not turn off blah, 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 blah. The entire time we're managing the personalities of the devs, and we're trying to get them room to work and to figure out what makes sense to them. See, it's not just picking something. It's picking something that you can execute, right? It's saying that's something that we can see. Remember, that vision's there. That can get us to that vision. So I can't say, what I would say is if it was a different group of people, the timing may have been different, right? But that outcome may not have been as robust as what we have now. I am off the chain, over the moon excited about where we're going. And this was a 3-month process of us going back and forth and changes and changes and changes. No, that's not going to work. Yeah, that's a great idea, but the community will never buy it. Yeah, that's great, but no one will ever understand it. Come back with something else. New. It's a process. Right. And, people hate that word, but, this is Titano's a cruise ship. And when you want to turn a cruise ship, you can't just make a quick U-turn. You got to plan that whole thing out. And I know people don't want to hear that. And I know people relate that. Well, David, the price was going down. And I would say to people, we don't have as much control over the prices as you think. And we threw all sorts of things at the price trying to hold it. It was a falling knife. And again, it wasn't us, Titano, making the price down. It was a lot of this Let me stop for a second. Titano made a lot of mistakes. Sometimes I get accused of, well, you guys don't ever say you screwed up. We screwed up big time many times. Every one of these projects does. Ethereum does that. But what I'm saying is when you're in the midst of it and when you're in the heat of it and doing it, you got to keep your eye on your long-term vision. And you can't just be moved by all of these gyrations and people and voices and all of this stuff. Especially, let me be clear about that as well. People made amazing suggestions. When Titano went to V2, we were under audit from CERTIC. And I got reached out to by Titans who told me, David, I know CERTIC's auditing those contracts. There is a flaw in that contract where if we launch, we will crash. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I'm not a contract guy, but I said, how sure are you? 100% positive. I said, if you guys are right, we're going to give you a bug bounty. And I took it to the devs and they looked at it and they said, you know what? These guys are right. And those guys got a bug bounty. They got a big shout out. And so that's how Titano operates. It's not, well, guys, we don't want it. We don't hear what you're saying, but there's a vision, and the vision is what people bought into. That's why they're here. This is not some short-term, shitcoin project. There's a vision there, and it takes time to execute. So, with making these pivots and with taking this information in, right, you got to balance it. Summit talked about it earlier. We're humans as well. Like I would say to people, I'm worried about the devs reading something and losing their enthusiasm. So when people would come to me and bring me information, well, how did you tell them? How did you tell them this thing that I found? Did you just tell them? And I go, I didn't talk to them and call them thieves like you said they are. I took the information to them and I asked them to respond to it. I can't go to these guys and call them, look, guys, you guys are scam artists and blah, blah, blah. And they've been here. They keep coming back. They're not leaving. So, I would ask people when they come to me, because a lot of times it's a full head of steam. I've got something great. I want to hear it. I'm a holder too. I'm not going to deflect something that you found, but let's say that, you want questions answered around it rather than accusations made. And it ends up being challenging. But let me be clear. Whatever I'm saying is part of the job, and it's a small part of it. Right. This isn't the main thing that's going on. Right. People can put it in the front. This isn't the main thing that's going on. What's going on with this project is we built an amazing community of people and they've stuck together. That's the story of Titano. Because if you don't have that, what all these projects need is they need an opportunity to grow, right? They need an opportunity to make mistakes and not, like I said earlier, crash because of some unforeseen issue. You get hacked, or you make a bad decision on a protocol, or the one of the mods comes in and has a bad day and curses out a holder, and it's like, what? You shouldn't talk to. And I've seen projects fail because of that.
Right.
So we have been extraordinarily fortunate, and we are extraordinarily thankful to have the opportunity to still be here and to present what we know is amazingly exciting, more exciting than anything that Titano has had up to this point. It's amazing.
And just to put a pin in my question, and we can then go on to the exciting part. And I do apologize for anyone listening that thought it would be a quick 35-minute in and out Q&A. Not the case. There's so much to discuss here. And you guys speak so well that I was aware that it was going to be a bit of a longer one, because I find the way you talk about it to be fascinating, because it echoes some real intelligence from, again, for lack of a better phrase, real world business. And it's slowly being brought into this space. And I think Titano are incredibly lucky to have that sitting behind them, if I'm honest. But just to put a pin in that point, I guess one of the biggest juggling points in terms of turning rebasing off, and people will, this is one of the pushbacks that I've seen people give, is that, well, where's my value? My value's now dropping. Now that I know something else is coming, I need it to happen right now because my value is going to keep dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping, right? And I guess that also plays into why you might delay releasing certain pieces of information, because you kind of have in your mind, the minute they hear something else is coming, they're going to want it off immediately, and immediately might not necessarily make sense.
Yeah, that's accurate. There's a balance, right, to be established. And I say this to everyone. So let's use an example. At one point, there was this outcry regarding buybacks and burns, and the community was demanding it. And Titano tried it. And, we put in that we were going to do it for a certain period of time. And we did it, and there was no response, and no positive response. And so Titano stopped. And then there were for quite a period of time, people saying that was a major mistake. Well, you have to judge what you're doing by what the outcome is. And I began to explain to people, the nature of buybacks and burns. Buybacks and burns are not designed to support your protocol. Buybacks and burns are designed to create a spark. So you are looking to move your token, maybe your token's falling, you're looking to move it in a different direction, and you come up with an idea, a plan for that, and then you use a buyback and burn to get people to take notice. You create a green candle or a couple of green candles, and people say, hey, something's going, maybe this thing is turned. And then you've got this thing behind it that supports it. Well, the conversations around buyback and burns were coming and saying, well, this is a way for us to turn things around. It wasn't. It just wasn't. And I kept using the example of, because, Titano capitulated and did that, but it just didn't work. And I think everyone on this side knew it wasn't going to work for that, because that's not how buybacks and burns work. So, it was challenging, because the conversation was, well, you guys don't care about the holders. And, our position was, there's so much work going on to not just change the price change the trajectory of the price, but to change it permanently. Now, don't get me wrong. I say permanently, you're going to have the fluctuations of the crypto market, but there's consistent positive price pressure. If you see where we're going and how, for instance, buybacks and burns would work with this new token, it's a completely different story, right? We had a rebasing token, right? Rebasing means that you're fighting that 1.9 in the case of Titano percent drop every day. And you're doing a buyback and burn in that. And so you could do it and you'd see absolutely nothing. That's not going to happen with this token. Right. So, while people were going, well, you're not interested, we were taking all that information in and saying, okay, where could people like buybacks and burns, where are they most effective? Not with this token, but if we had this kind of a token, for instance, I'm jumping a little bit. I'll save that for later. So all of those things were taken into account, and everything takes time. I know people don't want to hear that. So it wasn't a disregard for the concern about price dropping, i.e. value dropping in people's wallets, but we had to build something solid. We had to build something solid, and that takes time. I'm telling you, this was months of going back and forth and back and forth. We were joking. It's like, maybe we'll just do a tune fork. Right. And again, with a clear vision on how to move this project into one that meets the needs of the Titans. The Titans want a long-term project. They don't want something where we're constantly trying to fight up and getting people involved. The other thing of it is, it's important to note, is that, those types of projects bring in a certain type of investor. And those types of investors make it more difficult for everyone because they're looking to pump and dump.
Right.
So, that's what I mean by changing the sentiment, moving back around to really where Titano was originally, right? When we were flying. So yeah, I get that. A couple of weeks ago, we turned off rebasing. There was an outcry from the community, turned off rebasing, turned off the buy tax, and a lot of people loved it. There was a lot of positive momentum. And, there's a lot of conversation. See, you should have done that sooner. No, we shouldn't have done that sooner. We shouldn't have done that sooner because it's like throwing out something that is well thought out, well thought through for now we're just throwing anything at the wall. Hey, let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. And like I said, it's a short-term bounce. See, what happens when you implement something like that? People play it. Like, look at what's happened with the Titano price, right? Since we did that. Right now, people are playing the token, right? I'm not against any of that, but now it's turned into a different project for this short period of time. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a thing, and we can't assess that. So we went from understanding what we had to now it's kind of like, okay, short period of time, right? Makes people happy, but we don't want to sell out the future, right? For this short period of time. So the thing I want you to take away from, because I'm not sidestepping this question, right? Well, David, did you guys not respond? Yeah, we responded in the way that Titano has always responded. Let's get a long-term solution, right? Yeah, the price is falling. Everyone hates it. So what do we do so we don't have to do something next week and the following week and the week after that and keep coming up with these, these gimmicks? How do we change this thing substantially? Letting go of rebasing, right? When these guys created it, letting go of Titano, it's like letting go of your two children. But I'll tell you, there wasn't a debate. There wasn't an argument. We just looked at the data. Can we turn this thing into something that we wanted to be with the name Titano? We felt that we couldn't do it. That's why Titano's not here anymore. But Titano's been amazing. But sometimes you just move on. Apple now used to be called Apple Computer because the company changed, right? So, all of that, I just ask people to consider it, right? You want long-term value. And that doesn't always happen with one fell swoop. It doesn't always happen without considering what your actions that you're doing right now to appease a short-term situation are going to be.
And it can come with unpopular. It can come with unpopular decisions as well, right?
This is true. And I want to connect into this just briefly, and I don't want to dwell on it too much, but the whole rebasing issue, right? So rebasing, I've talked about it before. It's understood, right? There's this negative connotation to it because there's a complicated element to it, right? In a rebasing protocol, the price can go down every day, but the value in your wallet can go up. If the price goes down less than that 1.9%, right, and less sells. So let's say the buys and sells were exactly the same, right? The value in your wallet would be the same, right? But the price would go down. You see what I'm saying? The price, inflation in Titano is not like inflation in the US dollar, which I've heard 100 YouTubers saying it's simply wrong. Inflation with the dollar, the problem with inflation with the dollar is that the dollars in your wallet don't inflate. If the dollars in your wallet, right, your wages kept up with inflation, then your value wouldn't go down. The problem is inflation's going up, but your wages aren't. In Titano, it doesn't work that way. It's 1.9% for every token. That includes the token in your wallet. So if inflation made the price go down 1.9%, you'd have the same exact money. Well, David, why does the price go down? Because more people are selling the token than buying it. So I would say to people, stop fudding your project with this inflation discussion, because people are going, yeah, the price is going down, so we got to get out of this thing. So the price would go down more than 1.9% and your value in your wallet would go down. So it was this cyclical thing going on. And I was like, well, wait, don't keep having that conversation. But it seemed like I was just defending rebasing. And I wasn't. And I tell you, this is one of those things where I said perception became reality. We got overwhelmed. I'm listening to brilliant YouTubers, quote unquote, telling us how you're going to inflate yourself out of existence. And it became the narrative. Well, we're inflating ourselves out of existence. No, we're not. No, we're not. Titano's price falls, right? Titano, the value in your wallet falls with Titano for the same reason that the value in your Ethereum falls, because there are more sells than buys in Ethereum. Same thing. Same project works the same exact way. Now, let me be clear. I get that people are used to seeing the price go up. I am too. And there's a psychological component when you look at that chart and the price keeps going down, you're like, oh my God. That's one of the reasons why we got rid of rebasing, because we can't win that argument. I would win the argument and people would say at the end, yeah, you're right, but the price keeps going down. So that's one of the reasons why we got rid of rebasing. That isn't the only and that isn't the biggest reason, but that certainly is one, because it's just an argument we can't win. I could be right every time and still psychologically people go, yeah, but look at that chart, man. Look at that chart. And I would say, yeah, but we're in a bear market. Look at everyone's chart. Yeah, but your chart. So, it's interesting. And, through it all, it's about keeping your head, focusing on the things that matter, right? Appeasing people, I've had hundreds of these conversations and explained it as patiently as I could, and still do it. And I'm happy to do it, right? If people want to know. But again, perception's reality. So I just wanted to bring that up about rebasing, because I'm still a fan. I said this, in an AMA recently. I would jump in a rebasing project that was well designed tomorrow.
Right.
If it was well designed, I'd jump into it tomorrow.
Yeah, right? I've heard you say that a couple of times, and I think it's great that you say it. And
they're amazing. They're great at listen. Let me tell you why. A project. These are people make this mistake, right? We're in cryptocurrencies. These are not stocks. Like people come and say, yeah, but I have these rights. No, you're talking about a stock. This is a currency. A currency has different phases. The first phase of a currency is to have your currency distributed so that then the second phase, people can utilize your currency. Rebasing is an amazing way to distribute your currency, to get it in people's hands. And people hold on to it and people love it. So from that element, it's served Titano amazingly well. Anyway,
and put you in a nice position in terms of the size of your treasury, which is often something that gets overlooked. When these videos get released, it's glossed over. Oh, by the way, they absolutely. have 8 million's worth of something in their treasury, and but let's look at this, and it's like, well, hold on, just dial back a second. How much in their treasury? Because that's a lot, and they're building something that's going to be sustainable moving forward. Right. We can't just gloss over it and pretend like it hasn't happened.
Yeah, we're essentially, someone said this, one of the Titans, it's like we're launching a new project and we've got $10 million to launch it with.
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's exciting.
And in talking about that excitement, as I said, I heard Summit say it's important to know where you've come from in order to know where you're going, and I think we've covered that now. One of the things that people are going to say is, well, there's people sitting in the wings that are going to be waiting for their exit liquidity. There are those that have ignored the Titano token because it wasn't worth selling anymore. And then the question is going to be, how are we going to make sure that they're interacting with the new platforms? But let me switch it on its head and ask you, why should they be as excited as you are about what's coming? And why are they going to be grateful that they haven't yet sold?
Wow, that's a fantastic, man. You have gone to the top of the list. That's
Thank you very much.
He did say he had some hard questions when he came into the Discord. So
why should we be excited? One of the things that we've got the great benefit of having is 16 months of looking at things closely. And in addition to that, and what is critical is we've been leading. Titano hasn't copied anyone. It's always been out front. And yeah, sometimes it's difficult because when you're the guy with the machete chopping through the jungle, sometimes you're going to run into a hole. And we paid attention to what's going on, to what everyone's doing, what's working, what isn't, sitting in the community, sitting in that community, hey, this is what's going on. This is in favor. It's out of favor. And what we came away with, I invite people to go into the Titano Discord and look at the announcement when we talked about Swytch and the reasons why we're moving this amazing community to a DEX, right? So, and all of the reasons have to do with the potential for stability, consistent positive price pressure, and growth, right? That's what's at the heart of it. And there's an unspoken thing I think that's not in there that's really our obligation as a project and with this community is, even if it's kicking and screaming, it's moving them to something that is just simply better. It's just simply better. And
tell me why.
Well, first of all, we're right in the middle of the DeFi, right? If you want to see a group of projects that do well, right, it's decentralized exchanges. Right? If you look at what's happening in the crypto space, centralized exchanges are under fire right now. More people are going to decentralized exchanges, not less. In addition to that, what we saw was that what's going to happen in crypto in this next bull run, and you see it happening now, is there's going to be what I'm calling platform wars. Right? So you've got all these layer ones and layer twos, and sitting on top of them are dApps. And a lot of these dApps are trying to get people's attention, right? I want you to not just do what you came here for, but I want you to do more, right? The most prominent of those are wallets. If you look and see as an example, what MetaMask is doing, they're constantly providing additional services to get you to do more and more through MetaMask. It's also happening with DEXs. Now, right at the beginning stage of it, and Swytch is going to blow the lid off that, right? We're going to push the envelope. But look at what Uniswap just announced. Uniswap just announced that they're connecting a wallet to their DEX. Now, why are they doing that? Because they want to use Uniswap as a hub for more activity. It's kind of like the comparison I make is if you look at like the media wars, right? So you've got all these different platforms. You've got Facebook, which is a social networking platform. You've got YouTube, which is a long form video platform. You've got TikTok, which is a short form video platform. You've got Instagram, which is a picture based platform. You've got WhatsApp, which is a communications platform. And all of these platforms have a similar agenda. Right? Two things are at the forefront. They want you to spend more time on their platform, and they want you to do something that's connected to transactions. See, Facebook doesn't want you to go there and they put ads next to your conversation because they know that's intrusive. What they want to have happen is they want you, Mad Hatter, and I to be friends on Facebook, and I watch and I see that you've taken your girlfriend to Hawaii for a vacation and it looks beautiful and you stayed at this resort, and I go, hey man, that's beautiful. I'm thinking about taking my girlfriend. Do you recommend, David, you got to stay at this place. It's fantastic. In fact, why don't you book it through Facebook and you'll get a benefit, I'll get a benefit, and they'll get a benefit. That's the platform wars that are going on right now. Something similar is going to happen in crypto, right? That's what we're predicting. And so you're going to see wallets, you're going to see DEXs, you're going to see these types of people trying to get more attention, provide more services, right, through these DEXs. And we believe we've come up with a strategy. There are 45 tracked DEXs on the Binance Smart Chain. They don't need another one, but they need what we have. There's nothing doing what we're talking about, nothing. And as importantly, it is a vision that was created, not pulling things out of thin air. It's pulled from our expertise. The expertise of the team is Swytch. So when people say, well, how are you going to stop people from anyone can try and create Facebook, right? But the people that are able to do it are the ones that have the skill set to do it. We're not just reaching at something. Titano's never done that. We can pull this off. So why? We've got a history of doing that. It's not just people copying the protocol. Look at every use case that Titano has put out. Play, the lottery, everything we've released has been copied hundreds of times. This will be the same. The difference is we've got a token that doesn't have the limitations of rebasing token, right? So what does that mean? It means it could be listed on a central exchange. We've got, we're in the center of DeFi. I invite you guys to go take a look and see how much revenue and how easily revenue gets generated through DEXs, right? And in addition to that, I can't give you there's some things going on, but how we operate is we test. So if I am actually onto something, I should be able to test this and there should be a response that's phenomenal. Or else there's a good chance we're just wasting our time. I can tell you, and it'll be proven in the next 6 weeks, that what we're talking about, someone's listening.
There's a lot you can't tell me, obviously.
There's a lot I can't tell you.
Is there's going to be something that you guys can, and if I can't strong arm you into giving me a little bit of juicy information, I'll just mute you and I'm going to go after Summit relentlessly for the next hour.
Summit has been trained.
I'm sorry, my headphones are running out of battery here,
Oh, yeah. Right. Before I head to my next question, can you guys give me something a little bit juicy about what it is that's coming that, the 90 people in the audience now can kind of really sink their teeth into?
Summit, give him some juicy stuff. What do you think is relatable? That's juicy. A lot of juicy stuff.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they look at Swytch, they have questions about what we aim to be, and what we aim to be in the space and how we can bring value into the space. And I think the biggest thing that we want to put out there is we really are an active DEX. And what that means is giving different opportunities and utilities to project owners, giving different trading options and opportunities for investors. And one, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but something that's also coming to Swytch is a perpetual exchange. And what that will allow for is futures trading, is longing, shorting, things like that. Also opens the gate to real yield generation. So rewards and things such as BUSD, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that. And I think that's, a huge thing that's coming onto Swytch, because now it's not having to go to, a different exchange so that I can start doing this. I can come to Swytch and I can do, longing and shorting. I can launch my project on here. I can incubate on here. I can burn all of my native, tokens on here, so I don't have to worry about my project getting dumped on. Or as an investor, I don't have to worry about the exchange dumping tokens. I think the biggest thing is seeing that we have everything here in one. You don't have to hop over to GMX anymore. You don't have to go to Pink Sale anymore to do a launch. You don't have to go to PancakeSwap to put your token. It's all in one. But I think really a huge thing coming is going to be that perpetual exchange. The ability to generate real yield from your trading directly from just, the Swytch exchange itself is humongous. The amount of trading value and benefits that come out of that. And remember, as somebody in that Swytch ecosystem, you're benefiting from all of that. As somebody who has that token, you're gonna see an increase in value, or hope to see an increase in value. You can never guarantee anything, but I wouldn't see a downside on things like that.
Right. And while I've got you talking, can you kind of give me a very brief, for those that don't know, just a very brief overview of what Swytch is going to be doing when it happens? So how, there's a phase one, there's a phase two. There's going to be staking involved in phase one. That's going to be, at a high percentage, that's going to be able to distribute those tokens. And I like that process. And I would hazard a guess that in some way that is a way of still giving people that good dopamine fix that they want from rebasing in a slightly different way. It's a very clever transition from what I've been reading, and it's a subtle one, and it's a subtle nod to not to rebasing, but a subtle nod to what people were getting in terms of that token increase, so that they can see their wallets growing in the way they want to see it growing.
Correct.
And then phase two is where things can really rocket, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So talk through that. Talk through the stages.
Yeah. So as you said, there are two phases. Nicely put. Yeah, that phase one is really an ease in. It's getting people into the new tokenomics, the idea of becoming this BEP20 token that's that it's going to be listable on other exchanges. But phase one is really, I guess you could say, kind of a distribution phase again, as we switch across over here. Now, initially in that phase one, this token's going to be inflationary because of the staking ability on there. And what I mean by that is when investors come on, they buy their Swytch tokens, or hey, you're a Titano investor now and you just got migrated your token, you'll be getting an opportunity to go ahead and stake those tokens. What that looks like is a 500% fixed APY on the staked tokens, and you just earn back Swytch tokens. I think it's important to note that during this phase, this phase one is the only time that you'll ever see staking reward you in Swytch tokens. Once we get past this phase, that goes away, that inflation element goes away from there. But during this phase one, you'll have a 500% fixed APY on that Swytch token, So people who want to get in early, who want to get some more tokens based off their investment can go ahead and do that. There's no max supply because of that inflationary element within that first phase. Of course, once we get to the next one, it changes a little bit there. But during this initial phase, there's no max supply because as we're, that staking contract is minting tokens to give people as they stake. There's no way to calculate a max supply out on things like that. As far as taxes, though, with Titano now, or I should say previously, because we recently took off that buy tax, there was a 13% buy tax and a 18% sales tax. That's been reduced significantly. So buy tax is 0%. Sales tax is 10%. So a lot less taxes on there. And that's just, to encourage more people to actually buy into the token, get that distribution, come on in. Nobody likes to pay, taxes on a token. Let's be honest, and so reducing those, especially when just buying into the token is a huge benefit right there. And that's what we did with Titano and saw a huge benefit right off there.
Right. And it also, to interject very quickly, and I'll let you carry on, it also speaks to where you guys believe you're going to be generating money from, right? Yes. And it doesn't need to be from the taxes. And that is something people should pick up on that, again, might get lost, is that reducing those taxes is actually very bullish because it means you guys are confident you're getting your money from elsewhere.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's mostly going to be coming from all of those trading fees, that real yield, that those so many other options. And that's why we can take down those taxes, But of course, as you spoke on a little bit as well, is gaming. People will try and game that system. People always try to, right? You're going to have those people who buy in on the last day of migration for a Titano so they can make a quick 2 or 3x on the first couple days of Swytch. And for that first initial phase, we have something called an ATB, and this is only going to be for the first 40 to 60 days. And essentially, it's in long term, it's called available trading balance. And what it does is it limits the amount of sales that can happen every 10 days in your wallet. So you can sell up to 20% of your tokens every 10 days. And that just prevents people from, during this initial distribution phase, from trying to game that system, go ahead and buy in, like I just said, and try and sell really quickly after the pump there. But it's done in a way where, hey, you're not getting hit with taxes, but we are just limiting it a little bit so it doesn't have a huge negative impact on the overall price. And of course, with just, that ATB system, if people are selling, we're also helping to counteract that by doing buyback burns every 24 to 72 hours. Like we said, we have a huge treasury, that is going to help us carry into the future of everything that's Swytch related. And we're going to use a small portion of the funds that we've generated over this time to keep that price stable through that distribution phase, to help people get those tokens accumulated, keep that excitement generated, to make sure that, when they're looking at, hey, I can only sell 20% and somebody's selling and this or that. Well, hey, don't worry. We're going to help counteract it a little bit with a few buyback burns just to even things out. But that's just, that's really phase one, right? That's the distribution phase of things. That's getting the token in the people's hands. Really, the main goal is we want to accumulate more. When we get into phase two is where things I would say get really excited.
Hold on a second, I'm sorry. I just want to reiterate that phase one is 40 to 60 days. So Summit said it earlier, but you said it really quickly. So that's that phase that he just described.
Right. 40 to 60 days.
Now we go into phase two. So I'm sorry, Summit, please continue.
No, you're good. You're good.
Sorry, before you go into phase two, just on that buyback and burns, I know one of the things, and David, you touched on it, it's a spark and it's meant to be seen as a spark, and the community should look at it as a spark, because one of the things that I've noticed is an increase in popularity on buyback and burns. One thing that I haven't seen in other projects often is how that narrative is managed. And I think it will be well managed here with you guys, that it is meant to be a spark, and for people not to get frustrated and constantly be calling for buyback and burns, because they are just there to ignite something and then kind of fade away and be utilized as and when it seemed fit to utilize it for the betterment of the protocol and people's investment.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. There's this perception that you can buy back and burn your way into positivity. Other things are going on. I point to Ethereum, right? Ethereum's been burning and going, deflationary, and the price hasn't gone up, right? You don't have to look hard for these examples. So if something is doing that and the price is going up, there's likely something else going on. It's not just that. Right. So that we have to kind of moderate. It's like, well, wait a minute, but these got none. They're doing something else in addition to that. Right. That's probably some sort of a gimmick. Right. Because, you tell people all the time, you can't change the laws of physics, in crypto. Right. Things work the way they work. And you can do something that creates a temporary spark, which then creates positive sentiment. And people go, hey, the token's about to run. I want to jump into it. Then the price runs. Right. We hope to do that as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to have the type of token and project where that happens. So that's what's being created with Swytch, and that's why it's being implemented. As Summit said, there'll be buybacks and burns every 24 to 72 hours during that initial phase, right, to keep people excited about it, right, to keep the price stabilized, and that definitely part of it.
Great. Okay, so phase one is accumulation, and phase two is where it gets really juicy. Hit me with it.
Phase two is where we look towards this token becoming, something that's listable on exchanges, something that is really becoming that currency element, right? Kind of, I know, like David talked about, is now you're using those tokens for use cases, right? Being able to use them for those exchanges, utilities within the ecosystem. But talking on the tokenomics itself, we go kind of a 180. All right. We take off all of the taxes. So there's no buy taxes. There's no sales taxes on there. There's no limitations on any sales. All those elements that we had within phase one have been completely removed. With that too, there's now a fixed supply. Okay. So we calculate that fixed supply based on what we had in phase one and, calculate that out in phase two from there. There's no set number yet, because of course we have to figure that out from there, but a max supply is calculated there. Staking converts itself from a reward and Swytch token to now real yield. And what that means is things like BUSD, Ethereum, Bitcoin. Now you can take your Swytch tokens, and get Ethereum in return, for example. And that's huge on its own too. Now you open up the opportunities for listings on centralized exchanges, such as Binance, such as crypto.com. You take away those taxes, those limitations, okay? And now the doors open a lot more to the crypto space. So now you can bring this token and expand it to different areas of, investors, people who use centralized exchanges to buy tokens. Or maybe you take this now to different chains. You take this to AVAX, you take this to Matic. You give opportunities for people who are in different areas to go ahead and take advantage of the Swytch token. So I mean, when you come into this phase 2, it's really all about now using this token as an element and a tool as part of an ecosystem. Now you're using this token to gain revenue in different areas. You're using this token as a way to take part in different features and utilities. But you're also benefiting greatly from all of the listings, the trading, the benefits that happen within that Swytch ecosystem. There's now a limitation on the amount of tokens that are in circulation, so that value becomes as the token becomes more scarce, that value goes up, So that phase 2 is really about now bringing value, reaching a wider audience on different exchanges, cross-chain network compatibility, and things like that.
Now, one of the questions that's immediately going to be asked is when marketing, and I will ask that in a minute. It's a question that always comes up. Before that, I want to talk on KYC, and I want to talk on the importance of it or not. Right. I am a believer, because you've mentioned the DEX and the move away from the SEX and people saying not your keys, not your crypto. I am a firm believer that this space can operate successfully and protocols can operate without having to show who sits behind it. I do believe that. Right. What is your position on KYC, and how are you guys going to be moving forward with it?
Got it. Can I take that one, Summit?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, got it. So this has been an ongoing conversation. No one in the team is doxed or KYC'd. Initially, when that conversation came up early on, when I became a part of Titano, I asked the devs, and they said, in uncertain terms, it's a security issue, right? Security, people get death threats. I've gotten 2 death threats lately, from people who are unhappy, and I understand it, but it's still terrifying, right? And there's also security. We're operating in an industry that the powers that be are doing everything that they can do to make it illegal. And I don't think that it's fair for people who are bringing value to other people to have to be subjected, to that sort of stuff, that sort of scrutiny, where tomorrow they could change a law and all of a sudden we're outlaws. Right. So, I turn it on. This is one aspect. There's 2 aspects of it. So I turn it on its head. The holders here are purposely anonymous, and I'm all for that. If someone came into the chat and asked me a question, and my response was, well, before I answer that question, you gotta prove that you're a Titan, and you gotta reveal your identity to me, it would be uproar, rightfully so, right? Because that shouldn't be the criteria. Now, so there's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is, I always say, it's a security issue. So people, the narrative is people get doxxed in KYC, and there's less bad behavior. And I'm a data guy. Show me the data. Show me that in fact happens, that there are fewer rug pulls because you know who the dev is, right? Not to mention all the holes in KYCing, like I could come up with a fake passport and all that kind of stuff. But okay, show me that there's less of it. And I haven't seen any data that said, man, since we've been doing this, right? Now let's get into the nitty gritty of KYCing. And I'm not saying this to point out anyone to anything or bash anyone. It's just a reality. So data and taking someone's data, right? There are strict laws in just about every country about what you can do with people's data. So who am I giving my data to? A website? I mean, I go to a KYC company in the crypto space. It's a bunch of people who are saying, yeah, we're going to hold your data and we're going to decide if we're going to share your data based on how we're looking at your behavior. But who are you? Are you listed with any agencies, any government agencies? What happens if someone in your organization that has my data decides that they're angry with you? And now they're blackmailing you with my data. And you don't want to give in to your demands. Now my data spread everywhere. I haven't done anything wrong. What happens? How does that all work? What happens if the authorities go after you for my data? Do you have to hold my data? I haven't done anything wrong. The point I'm trying to make is it's a great sounding solution. And by the way, I would also say from the standpoint of projects that are KYCing and doxing, the majority, I'll talk about this more in a minute, but the majority of projects that seem like rug pulls, if you get out of that whole swampy shitcoin crappy project, come into like the real DeFi, most of the projects that look like rug pulls aren't rug pulls. It's just a group of big investors that all ran at the same time, and you see a big red candle and the project's dead. So someone's got to determine at that point if it's a rug pull. So now look at what I've done. I've turned over like my understanding of my project to a group of people that may or may not know anything about my project. And if they're getting pressure, right, from the community, well, wait a minute, you dox these people, you blah, you got to get me that information. Are they going to fold? What am I saying?
Right.
I'm saying it's complicated. And you shouldn't, I tell everyone, if you're a project or if you're an investor, you shouldn't simplify this issue. It's not simple. It's me turning all of my vital information over to people I don't know, who don't have any responsibility. I tell people all the time, these are websites. These aren't companies sitting somewhere. Is it okay for me to ask these people who are asking for my information to have their information? Is that okay? Right? I don't know who you guys are. Right? So it gets complicated. And I'm the kind of person, I don't look for a solution because it's simple. I look for a solution because it's good. Show me that it means something, and then we can talk about it. Right? Until then, it's just another gimmick for me. Now, again, I'm only working with data. So anybody that comes at me, bring me some data. David, that's BS. Look at what happened. And believe me, my opinion is always open to change, but I'm not going to get moved around and, I can tell you for sure that there's real concern around safety. I can tell you that 100%. I can cite you many examples of people who have been threatened, right, by people who were unhappy for their own reasons. That's a real issue, right? So that's my thoughts around KO. I'm not a quick fix and come up with something and yeah, that sounds good and everyone's excited and let's follow the train. We have to have our own reasons here. We have to have good reasons. And yeah, there are ways. Titano's been around for 16 months. And people who have said, well, it's a rug pull and it's all of this, we've been here for 16 months. It's funny. There was this narrative going around that Titano's, it's a slow rug pull. The devs are just going to let the project die and they're going to slowly siphon off all the money. And all I was saying was, that's not going to happen. We're about to do a major rebuild. No. You're just protecting these guys, David. And look what's happening, right? Titano has a history of performing in the best interest of its community. Now, we can debate, well, you should have done this and you should have done that, but I can't debate that this is a rug pull. So,
right.
And the other thing about it is, and this is the part that people need to think through more, what kind of environment are we trying to set for project developers, right? We're starting off immediately saying, we don't trust you guys, right? So now what ends up happening? The people that move to the forefront, right, are people that are willing to go through that. So you get a different type of a thief and you get people that may not be. We want this industry to be open for brilliant and fearless, right? People who are willing to live on the edge. Look at that young kid that's kicking OpenSea in the ass with that platform Blur. 22-year-old kid who just freaking, nobody knew who he was. That project went up to $400 million in a week, right? And he didn't want people to know who he was. So I get it. There has to be a balance. Security has to be in the front, and it's happening too often but I tend to go towards, let's not look at some regressive approach to it. Let's look at progress. The best security this industry could have, it's coming up with a way to get projects to do better. In crypto, more than 90% of the projects fail within 90 days of launch. One of the goals that we have with Swytch, right at the heart of it, is let's increase those odds. Let's bring that down to 80%. Then what happens? What will happen is people will begin to discern what a good project looks like, right? And the projects that aren't good, they'll fall off. You won't even look at those projects anymore. That's your security. That's how it works in the real world, right? You know this is a reputable project or company because you interact with them. You've interacted with them over time. So no one has to tell you, man, they might just run off with the money. They're not running off with the money. They're making too much money to run off with the money. That's what I say about Titano. The potential for all of this, there's too much money to be made for these guys to do a rug pull. That's my response. Why would they do that? The potential here is massive. So, again, this is an issue, and there are a lot of other things that I see coming out, products and ideas and thoughts around security. The best security is helping these projects to sustain, because then they become good projects over time, and you know where to invest your money. That's what we're focusing on.
So if I provide a tiny bit of pushback, if I may, please. So people don't accuse me of being just pro Titano. You raise some valid points, and I certainly think that this space is pretty young in its KYC processes, and they can be circumvented. Things happen where the person isn't the person you think they are. I mean, it isn't a foolproof system
fake
because
documents.
It doesn't sit exactly. It doesn't sit in the real world. And in that respect, and a lot of this space is anonymous. But so if I push back a tiny bit and ask you, if it gets to a point where you're at a crossroad and it is becoming evident that by KYCing, you're going to be able to push either the project over the next hurdle it needs to get to, or God forbid, it's gone backwards in a way you hadn't anticipated. And one of the ways by which you notice and think it's going to be able to get not propped up, but supported is to KYC. Are you going to revisit the conversation irrespective of how you might feel KYC is in its current format?
Absolutely, 100%. And I've said that, and I've vacillated, right? What my process is, I put all the pros and cons up there, right? I do that, right? I might revisit it, or I might just stop getting involved in projects, right? I might have to weigh it. If I'm in the middle of a bunch of people threatening me and they're going to kill my family, like what's going on now, I would just leave crypto, right? I think a lot of people would do that. And I think that's what we need to weigh it against. Do we want to turn this thing into the traditional markets, right? Is that what we want to do? Or do we want to find innovative solutions? The people behind PancakeSwap aren't KYC'd, and no one ever says they got $2.4 billion locked on that platform, and no one's going, they could just disappear with all that money. Why do they not disappear? Because again, the momentum, right, the potential of what they're doing keeps them there. That's the real world. You're never going to stop people from stealing. You're never going to do it. In the history of this world, people will find ways. So people will find, I don't talk about it a lot, but when Play got hacked, nothing was done wrong except some people got deceived, right? We went through all of the proper channels to do that, and hiring a dev, and everything on paper was fantastic. And $2.1 million was stolen. Right. So I struggle to find, again, the real usefulness of it. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm closed-minded. I'm telling you, I've looked at the data to date. But if something comes out, like I told you, there's a report, hey, Coin Bureau just did a report and showed that, KYC, then yeah, I would reconsider it. I would look at it. The reason that I'm saying it this way, though, I want to be clear. It's not to protect me or my identity. You guys know it wouldn't mean anything. It's not going to change you. Not more people aren't going to buy the token. More people aren't going to sell the token. It's not going to mean anything. But the reason that I'm saying this is because we have to be mindful of what we're doing together, all of us, right? We're creating something new and innovative, right? And we need to look at how we approach everything, not jumping on these old solutions because they're convenient, because everything we pick up creates another problem. KYC creates another problem. Like I said, now I have to weigh, okay, David, you go out there, you bust your ass 7 days a week like I'm doing, do everything that you can, and then some guy could find out who you are, come to your house, and try to hurt you. Are you up for that?
It's a certain responsibility that a lot of people won't want to have, and it does bring to the forefront the uncomfortable conversation that perhaps the investors in this space need to start taking more responsibility for their investments. So if rug pulls are going to be to blame, then I guess the question has to be, did you do enough research? And I've been rugged for a fair amount of money. Did you do enough research? And in my case, no, I didn't. Realistically, the uncomfortable truth is no, I didn't. And I can blame X, Y, and Z, and I can, use information bias to support why I'm not to blame. But actually, ultimately, I saw the flags and I didn't take it on board. And there are also going to be people that push back and rightly say, well, actually, you're just using information bias to support why you shouldn't KYC, and I can understand that standpoint too.
I don't, like I say, this is it's a hot topic, and it's a difficult topic. What I'm trying to say to everyone is it's not as simple as just do it. It just isn't that simple. If it was that simple, I wouldn't have any things against it. And I have to weigh it, and I'm being brutally honest. I'm having to weigh this. Would it bring more confidence to people? Would it bring more value to people's wallets? I would push back and say, we've been here 16 months. That whole that slow rug conversation, my pushback was, why are they doing a slow rug? They're anonymous. They could steal all the money in the treasury, go away, and you would never know who they are. If these guys have improved who they are, their character, what their intention is, then this is just not the project for you.
Right.
There's a vision that's being executed, and things will be evaluated, good or bad, based on our ability to execute. That's what this is going to come down to. And for me, personally, if it doesn't come through to anyone who's listening to me, I have high character, right? I'm not going to be around people whose intentions are stealing people's money. I don't have to do that. So all of our team, that's one of the reasons I was glad to bring Summit on it. These are good people. These are people who, this is misconception like, well, you guys don't give me pushback. There's pushback. We're in these chats. We're going at each other. We're questioning every move that everyone's making. And we're waiting to get the right responses. It's difficult though, and as people come up again with these new ideas, great, let's evaluate it. Like I said, my approach, and it's never going to change because I've seen it work, not just with me, but with everyone. Incentivize people to have good behavior. Don't just focus on punishing them if they had bad behavior. So now everyone's KYC. How is that going to make this space any more profitable? How's that going to make your project more? How's it going to make that project sustain past 90 days? How's it going to do it? Walk me through that. So again, with our approach is, as I mentioned, more than 90% within the first 90 days of a launch. What can we do about that? We got a solution. And it's a good one. And, we take that on. And again, that will bring security, because the more those long-term projects happen, the more people are going to make money. You're going to have time to get your initial investment out. You're going to make some money. So if the project crashes 6 to 9 months from now, it's like, hey, it ran its course. That experiment went down the road, made myself some money. Now let me go on to the next one.
Right.
So
I agree. Well, one of the things that, again, it's a conversation that will just happen in perpetuity, right? We can go in circles. And one of the questions is going to be, well, if we're meant to do our own research, then surely researching the founder is one of the first starting points. And, there is someone listening here who often rightly cites Bernie Manoff as the, ultimate Ponzi scheme runner. You can research people as much as you want. You don't necessarily know what's happening in the background. So it isn't the be all and end all, I think, is where the conversation ultimately ends, is that, does it help? It can do at times. But like you say, there are security issues that come to play in this particular space. And until those security issues are plugged and solved, then actually this space can run and operate without a KYC. And it should be noted that you were instrumental in recovering monies, and not a small amount either. And that is what a good player does, right?
Yeah, I mean, we recovered the $2.1 million that was stolen from Titano Play. It's essentially, it wasn't a hack, it was an exploit, right? A developer that was hired. Actually, this developer I don't want to go through the entire story, but the developer that deployed the contract put a back door in it and took the money. And we fortunately were able to recover all of those funds from this hacker on our own. And it's funny because what drove that was we were so outraged that that money was stolen from the community that we were just not going to rest. We were just not going to rest until we got that money back. And fortunately, we did. I'm not trying to say there was any brilliance or anything like that. It's just we got fortunate, right? But all of these conversations are great conversations to have. I think people have to accept that there are going to be different solutions, right? And it's not that it's a disregard for this security element. It's just a different way that we believe is a better solution. I want to focus on things again that are proactive. It's like I raise my kids. I don't punish them I try to motivate them to do the right thing so they do the right thing. So it's positive reinforcement, right? Constantly hitting them only teaches them that, when you're angry, you hit. And so I say the same thing with these projects. Let's incentivize them to have good behavior. Let's incentivize them. Like I said earlier, let's incentivize them that you make more money if you don't rug. You make more money if your project sustains. We evaluate a lot of projects, and people will come sometimes with a great idea, but a not great project. And I'll say to them, this is, if you take another 3 months, go back to the drawing board and perfect this thing, it'll mean the difference between success and failure for you. And that's not just for them, that's for the entire space. I don't want an investor to become a part of a project that's got all this hype, but there's nothing behind it. So that's a way all of us, I think, as project, owners and developers and core teams should talk to each other.
Right.
Hey guys, that's a great idea. Like I said, if you look at the numbers, right? So Coin Bureau did a video where they talked about this particular topic, and what they came away with was that less than 25% of the projects that get released in crypto are rug pulls. Now, that's a high number still. Let's say that number's 23%. That's a high number, but I'm willing to bet if you go out of that area where the projects are designed to fail, if you came into like the area above that, the numbers, if you excluded that area, the numbers probably 10%, 15%. The reason we constantly think about rug pulls is because when they happen, they get marketed, they get advertised everywhere, right? But there's 10 crypto projects being released a day. How many rug pulls are there a week? 1, 2, 3, right? So, there's a focus on it. People are hurt, they lost money, they want to talk about it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at why are projects failing, right, in those first 90 days, probably 50% of those projects are failed because of incompetence of the team or a terrible idea, right? That's the vast majority of why crypto projects fail. That was just a bad idea or the team couldn't execute. That leaves 35% of projects that are failing because they don't have access to resources, right? So if the security aspect is 15%, and the access to resources area is 35%, where would you recommend that we focus? We're focusing on that area. That's what Swytch is. That's why we're so excited. We believe that we can help projects sustain. And by doing that, we help investors. Right? Man, I didn't get my initial out. Right? Why did that happen? Because you didn't have enough time. So, in evaluating these projects and bringing them on, that's one of the reasons why we've been really cautious. People are going, well, you guys don't have a lot of projects listed on your exchange. Yeah, because we're being particular. Because the moment we list, the Titans are going to buy into that project, and now they're at risk.
Right.
So it's not just about getting fees and all of this, and then you have 30 days. I mean, look at Unico, the project we've launched. It's still going. Right. So that's a testament. That was a test project. We incubated that project, got involved with them, worked with the team, looked at their tokenomics, helped them with their marketing, positioning, how to set themselves up with their community. And then we said, okay, guys, and then gave them $1 million in liquidity. And look at the project. It's sustaining. So, that's the future of this industry. It's working together. It's looking at smart solutions. And then it's taking your resources and dedicating them to that. Not coming up with these punitive ways to, well, look, guys, if you don't KYC with us and you don't now what have I just said? If you don't give me all your vital information, if I'm angry with you, I might throw your information out there to everyone. It creates, for me at least, and you'll see consistently with me, that's how my brain works on this stuff. What's the downside? Right? What are we doing in the name of safety and security that could be done a better way? Again, that's progressive. Yeah, I'm going to reward you guys for going back and fixing your protocol, right? Yeah, we're going to do a multi-sig on your wallet so you can't do that. So there's protection, right? You can't just take the treasury and run. So we're going to do that. But also, we're going to fix your protocol, right? We're going to give you some advice. We're going to tell you how to manage your community, right? And we're in a position to do that, right? So this is the future of things, right? How we see it, and this is what we're implementing with Swytch. It's genuinely exciting, but let me be clear: we need a community that is behind it, and we need room to make mistakes, like we've had with Titano. All of these projects run into major problems. Then it comes down to the community. You know, talk about Terra, right? And why Terra crashed, right? It failed because the community lost confidence in Do Kwon. He set himself up to be the smartest guy in DeFi. And when he wasn't, instead of him, what I would have done is I would have gone on YouTube and I would have done a 72-hour live stream and explained to everyone what happened, how we're going to fix it, took all the hate, all the scare, everything, and talk to people. What did he do? He went on Twitter and said, "We got this." And what did people say? "Oh my God, I've given money to an egomaniac," and they all ran. So you know, it's about this one. I'm happy that we're here to be able to explain some of these things. You know, our agenda. We feel like Titano also has an obligation, right, because of its size and its time and its space, to make the whole space better. So let me give you an example. So we're also developing as a companion site something called Swytch Services, with the goal of, one of the problems that investors have in this space is, if I want to interact with the project, the only information I could find with them on them is marketing. The website, the Discord group, the Telegram group, the Medium articles, right? The YouTubers. It's all marketing. Where do I go to get unbiased information about a project? We're going to create a space where, when you see data on there about a project, it's unbiased. That's in the benefit of the project, not just holders. You want people to know the truth. So I'm going to ask some questions like, what can go wrong? Tell me the 3 things I should look for in your project that can go wrong that should make me nervous. When have you ever seen that? It's important for an investor to know if they don't understand the protocol. So it's bringing these things out that are progressive. That helps a project. If a project doesn't want to give you that information, right, then they either haven't thought through, they're being too optimistic. When people come to me, because these are questions I ask, boy, that's great. Tell me what can go wrong, guys. Nothing. Conversation's over.
Right. And, you know, like I said, I can spend another 2 hours arguing about why KYC is or isn't good. And at the heart of it, what it shouldn't do is have a solution in place that takes away from those that might not want to KYC, but can create some really forward-thinking stuff within this space. And I know that this is low-hanging fruit, but you know, Satoshi Nakamoto is a prime example of that, right? It's the easiest person to pick out of someone whom we don't know who he is, who's the godfather of this space, effectively.
I think he knew that if he would have come out and was a person, this space would have never happened. It would have never happened, because they would have fudded him to death. Can you imagine? They'd be tracking everything he did, and I found out that he's actually not a good. It would have put all the focus on him, and that's not what this is about. It's about the space. It's about the project. It's about the protocol. It's about all of us working together to try to change things. Right? I said this yesterday in AMA. You know, crypto is about freedom. That's what it's about, right? Yeah, financial freedom, but being free financially is part of freedom. So we're here for that. We don't lock everybody down. Just my opinion. We don't lock everybody down and have everyone terrified, right? I think we need to think about that. But again, if you're comfortable with doing it and you're not comfortable with being a part of a project where people don't do that, I understand that. I get it. Right. And I say to people, you shouldn't. If that's one of your criteria, then you should stick to that.
I only have a couple more questions because I know we've been going for 2 hours and it is a long time. And
Summit, you still with us?
I'm here.
The listener numbers only going up, so people are obviously enjoying what they're hearing. But I am just very aware of people's time. Obviously, people are going to say that the most important thing is an objective business model, not poor marketing or community. And it's understanding, like you said, where can you fail? So to that point, where can you fail? And what are you guys doing to mitigate that as best you can?
Excellent question. So all crypto projects need to inspire holders so that they go through the good and bad times, right? My wallet right now looks like a murder site. You know, some of the projects that I know are amazing are down more than 90%. And what I learned was that I had to get emotionally prepared for that, right? So what can go wrong, right? Again, if you talk to me about why projects fail, right? Not rug pulls and a few whale investors running, but why, like when you've got like a project that's well spread, a lot of people, they fail because the project itself loses, right, the love of the community. So how can Titano moving to Swytch fail? We don't keep people as motivated as they've been, right? So we've got to put an extra emphasis, which we do, on making sure that people know that our focus is on them. And so as I'm explaining what's going on, right, through the fears and concerns of trying something new, David, projects that launch a new token, it's this and that, the other thing, what I'm putting at the heart of that conversation is that we have to do this to continue proving that that's the focus. We have to do that. However, it's a risk. And if we're not able to do that, then this project will fail. Now, on the plus side, right, because we're always watching numbers. And as we've rolled out, we purposely, we did 2 AMAs to introduce Swytch. And we put some time in the middle, right, to say, first thing we said is Titano's going away and rebasing is going away. All right, everybody, have at it, right? And we didn't just leave it there, right? We talked about what Swytch was going to be, but we wanted people to kind of digest all of this, go through your emotions, go through your feelings. Some people were euphoric, some people were angry, all of those things. But it was really also to gauge what's happening now. Is there mass exodus, a mass run for the windows? And there wasn't, right? And I think it's a testament again to the time that we put in and to our emphasis on educating people, not banning people. You talked about this earlier, right? We don't and we rarely ban people, even if they're fudding, right? We explain to them, this is not Facebook, it's not Twitter, right? So that's one thing. It's not getting not keeping the faith of the community. And that's the primary thing. Because again, I'm saying to people, this vision is going to take a year. It's going to take a year for us to execute. Now, it doesn't mean that the price won't be going up and all that sort of stuff. It means that for us to get where we're going, we should expect it to take a year, right? And so, during that time, we've got to keep the focus and the love and enthusiasm of the community. So that can go wrong. Maybe we can't do that, right? Time will tell. What we've done to mitigate risk is we've moved away from questionable tokenomics, right? Questionable meaning people are looking at it going, you're inflating yourself out of business. Okay, so now we're moving, as Summit mentioned, short-term distribution phase, accumulation phase, and then moving to a deflationary token. And that's based on projects like Ethereum, right? That's what Ethereum did. So we're doing the same thing. We're following down the path of proven crypto projects, right? So that's another thing that we're doing the same. So again, understanding all of that. And then the third thing is finding business. One of the things that we found when we were out looking to list projects on Swytch was that existing projects, let's talk about existing projects, was that it was more complicated than we thought, right? For someone to move their liquidity to your DEX, it can be a complicated, not technically, but complicated from the standpoint of where your project is process, right? And we kept during a period trying to figure out what's the right offer. Like, how do we incentivize people to do that? Because that's what it comes down to. I'm fine on this one. I split up liquidity. I got to worry about arbitraging issue, all these other things. So what's the right model? And that is going to change. So we've got to get right over time, that model. So what we've done is, so that's an issue. We can't get projects on the exchange. So what we've done is a couple of things, right? Number one, we've come up with a flexible model, a custom model, where essentially our approach now is looking at a project on an individual basis and determining what they need and looking at all the resources that we have and saying, you know what, we can change this resource. We can modify it to fit that specific project. So maybe the project's going through a period where they've got like a lot of things they're investing in, so their cash flow is kind of short. So we could say to them, well, you know, we're going to waive fees totally, right? Right now we burn native tokens, which is a benefit to them, but we could waive fees for a period of time. We could invest in that project to help them move along, right? We could co-create a project with them to help their protocol, right? So this is the response in taking this additional time, right, to figure out what we have here and how do we become more valuable to them. So this is the response. This is our risk mitigation for this area. How do we get new projects on, right? So that's one aspect of it. So that's existing projects, right? Still complicated, right? But it's moving a lot better now. With new projects, again, we're offering additional services to them that are designed to help them launch better, to help them sustain after launch. Now, it's much more work, right? We got to kind of get into what they're doing and take more meetings and figure it all out, but we're not going for volume, right? We're going for quality. And so there's that part of it. With that being said, we will release a permissionless component to it, but we're not looking to become pink sale, right? We're looking to have projects that are saying, you know, I really don't need you guys' help. I just want to have access to people who are going through Swytch. Okay, well, still we kind of, you know, like to make sure that this isn't this. So maybe we'll put in a couple of little caveats there because, again, the goal is we don't need another pink sale, right? We need a place that's releasing quality projects. When you come to it, you're not worried about the security aspect of it. You're just worried about, do I think this thing can bring me value? So that's what's going. The other thing that's happening is we're developing our own projects, right? You know, when you develop something like Swytch, you also create a reality that this would be the ideal project for us. Man, if it just had all these attributes, and sometimes that project doesn't walk through the door. So it's a great idea to develop it. You know, if you look at how Apple operates that way, right? We've got all this technology. What can we create on top of this technology that would be great to show how great our technology is? So similarly, we're taking that approach. We're looking at developing or co-developing with other people projects that we can launch that demonstrate the power of Swytch. So all of those things are going on to ensure that over time, we're getting not just the right amount, but the right quality of projects. The other thing that we're doing, right, to sustain. So what's the other thing? We decided a long time ago that one of the major negatives for any project operating is not having strong partners, right? There are things, you know, if you talk about the Titano price and what happened, one of the things that happened was people just got tired of hearing me and others in Titano talking, right? And we were at the disadvantage where it's like, of course you guys are going to support yourselves. You're not going to say you did anything wrong. It would have been fantastic to have other voices explaining these same things, right? People that were respected in the industry. Hang on a second, guys. Let me kind of tell you what you're saying that, okay, maybe we should look at this again, right? So we gotta not just grow vertically, we've got to grow horizontally. So we've been spending time, and you'll see this during this accumulation phase when news starts coming out, how we've been active in that area, right? Again, it's a risk mitigation factor. It's something that as we're doing it, that partner is going to be able to see things we just won't see. That partner is going to have solutions. Hey guys, you're struggling here. We can co-market with them, right? We can build things with them, right? We can help prop up their protocol. And now we've got access to two communities, right? We can bring them together. You know, this has been a discussion we've been having. It's difficult, right? Because unfortunately, projects silo themselves in this industry. They don't look at partnering in a meaningful way. I don't mean we're partnered with CoinMarketCap. No, you're not. You're listed on CoinMarketCap. I'm talking about these people. This project has a vested interest in your success, and you do theirs. So we're working on all of those things, again, to create a foundation for what we're doing. So those are the risks of the business. If we can't do those things, a combination of those things, this project's going to struggle. That's what's going to happen. That's the reality of it.
And I know some of the pushback is going to be that, well, hold on, when you mention managing community sentiment, that shouldn't be at the top of your priority list. It should be the least of your worries. And I echo your sentiment in that I would push back on that and say, well, no, I disagree. This space is ever changing, and it cannot be, you can't replicate success from real world business to here in the same way. This is a community based area. Exactly. Yeah. And the community is a business, and it has to be looked at as a business that needs managing. And I would even go so far as to say a good business model is great. And there are so many good business models out there. Mm-hmm. Without the correct community, the right education for that community, the right people answering the right questions at the right time, those businesses won't take off.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we've all seen that. We've seen I've been invested in some amazing ideas where, the guys behind it just weren't great at communicating, and they wouldn't, they just don't get it. And, and the project doesn't take off.
Right.
Titano's got moving the Swytch. There's a fundamental emotional change that's happening, right? We're moving from this, like I said, this dopamine based project. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying it's different, to one where it's about steady growth, right? And so the Titans have to become a different type of investor, right? This is not going to be the project for win Lambo people. It's just not going to be that. And so people have to manage their expectations. So a lot of hey, when is the price going to triple? A lot of that communication is going to fall on deaf ears with us, right? It's because it has to. We can't just keep doing short-term things to try to appease people. We want to build this into a massive project. And, and that means focus on, again, like I said, these long-term agendas, not to the detriment of the price. I'm happy to say that what was at the center of this change was a focus on not having the price do what it was doing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's at the center of this, right? But long term and where we're going, we're becoming, you don't see. I would imagine if Ethereum has a chat where people are going, "When is the price going to triple?" That's not the conversation. You want the price to go up, you want it to hold steady, you want your bags to grow massively, and so do we. But it's a different, so people are going to have to start, and I've been saying this in the chats, listen, guys, we got to get ourselves ready here for that hit that we've been, looking for and waking us up in the morning is not going to be the main agenda for this project. We want steady growth. We want to look back and go, my gosh, look at that chart. It's amazing.
Right. So, and as part of that steady growth, are you looking at cross-chain also? Are you looking at other chains? Absolutely. Or are you sticking on the one?
We're looking at cross-chain opportunities. It's there have been a lot of things like this space is there's a difficult component of it, right? Because some people are great marketers. They'll come out, they'll say, hey man, it's a great thing and blah, 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 blah. Moving cross-chain has a lot of potential issues, right? And the way we do it, each of them has pluses and minuses, right? Splitting up, like I mentioned, now you have this arbitraging stuff going on. So now you're inviting a different type of investor to your project. All these things are going on, right? You got to, really know how to manage your liquidity really well, right? If you put a bridge on your project, right? We know the recent challenges with bridges, and I remember listening to Vitaly Buterin talking about why he didn't like bridges, right? And again, I know there's a lot of new bridging technology coming out, and we're excited and looking at it. But he said, it's like, if you think about a blockchain like a vault, right? It does all of these amazing things to secure itself. And then you put a bridge to another blockchain. He said it's like putting a window in a vault. And that explains to you why there's so many hacks on bridges. So when you talk about hey man, you could have your Swytch, but you could have people from Ethereum buy onto Swytch through this chain, right? Through this bridge. And you have to weigh it, right? Because, our mistakes would be huge mistakes. It wouldn't be 200 holders got hurt. It would be thousands. And so, yeah, we have to. So what ends up happening is, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but when someone comes with some new interesting technology, boy, that's great. Put it in the market for 3 months. Oh, you don't understand. We've been back testing. Back testing is not putting something in the market. Put it in the market. Let some hackers take a look at it. Let's see if people really respond to what you're talking about, right? And want to use it. So, you know, when I have these types of conversations or these parts of the conversation, I'm happy to have them so people get an insight as to why this stuff is so complicated. And I think why, in spite of these things, as we talk about them, the community understands we are terrified of making a critical error for this project, especially after what happened with Play. Because as I said, on paper, nothing was done wrong. Nothing. But that happened. And we're thankful to the community because they bounced back. They looked at it as a buying opportunity. So
Right.
we're managing our way through all of these things, using time as our friend, and strategically moving things out. You'll see what Titano Swytch does better now is deliver on time and manage these processes. So you'll see, just like I mentioned, people are rightly calling this as it's just a new token launch. You guys will see the way it happens. A new token launch, the marketing that's going on, and the way the liquidity is going to be managed, and the goal of moving the token, all of those things. This is like a new project launch. But also, we're going to stagger information in order to not just use it as good marketing, but also because too much information overwhelms people.
Yeah.
Like, it just
Okay. Well,
overwhelms.
I only have a couple more questions left. So those that don't like my voice are going to be rejoicing. Those that have enjoyed it might be
Same here, man.
disappointed.
Same here. Same here. Yeah.
So maybe this is going to be a direction I can kind of push for a tiny bit of alpha, and you're probably not going to give it to me because I know you guys are particularly tight-lipped. Partnerships. Is there anything on the horizon that you guys are talking about now that is going to really excite people?
Oh my God. Summit.
Uh,
Are you
Summit.
Are you a mole?
I'll mute David and just let you speak for the next hour.
let me say it this way. I said earlier that the way you know that you're in the right path is by the outcomes, right? What's the response, right? I'm telling you, we're getting a good response. I'm telling you
From whom?
that everything that I'm talking about and all these things that I've been running my mouth about and we've been talking about and getting people to focus on about how you make something special is being heard. Not just talking, it's being heard. So, we're moving aggressively on all of this stuff, right? Because we have to. And, we genuinely, I think the team is more excited now than at any point in time in this project. And I've heard that from people and I understand it, right? It's going to reveal itself in a short while, but yeah, so, I guess it's kind of like a roundabout. That's probably as close to alpha as we're going to get, as we can get.
Right. You're kind of
yeah,
giving
it won't be long.
a subtle nod.
Yeah, it won't be long before all this stuff is revealed. But I don't want it. It's funny. I don't want it to be like, oh, well, we're marketing and we're hyping something. This is hard work. This is months and months and months and months of work, and and making an adjustment and trying to, what happened? Nothing. Okay, let's try it this way. Okay, let's move it that way. But that's what everyone should do. I encourage everyone to do that. When people come to me looking for a partnership and they don't get a response, I tell them why. Let me tell you why you don't have me. Because you walked in here, like this is a good example. You walked in here with your idea and you never considered what I'm getting out of it. See, when someone comes with a new idea, a new project, it's great, but we've got a bird in the hand. I got a 76,000 holder community. I don't have to offer you, I don't have to tell you what I'm bringing to this partnership. You have to tell me. And I've got the bird in the hand. You've got a great idea, but it's an idea. My question is, do I want to expose my people to your idea? Now, that's not a jab. I always start off by saying, I'm extraordinarily interested in finding new opportunities for Titans. That I feel is part of our job, right? And if you've got something, it's amazing, but we have to make sure we're having the right conversation. right? I can't act like you've got the, because people go, man, it's going to change everything for you guys. Man, if I had $1 for every time I went into a meeting and someone told me that, man, you'll see, and I've just never heard from them again. Now, why? This stuff is hard. It's freaking hard to put a project in this space and have it sustained for any period of time. Look how many projects we've gone through. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, right? Between tune forks and rebase tokens and all, hundreds. And where are they all? Right? They're gone. So that has to be a part of discussion. I explain that to people. So when we're talking about partnerships, it's not just as simple as reach out to those people, right? We got to get it right. So it's been a tremendous amount of work and continues to be. And we expect it to be a lot of work. We're not going in going, well, oh, one phone call and we're going to have, nope, it's going to be multiple phone calls and back and forth and no. And then they may call us back 30 days later. Hey, we've been thinking about what you were talking about. Can we open that conversation again? That's what the process is. That's what all this is about. So yeah, you know, and what I'll say about that is we've got a great team that's prepared for that process. We don't get discouraged, we don't get turned down and feel bad. We just keep going. We just keep going. That's why it's been 16 months. Take the hit and keep going. Yeah, they're being unfair. Yeah, but keep going.
Right.
So,
and in terms of marketing, then, just to kind of segue into that,
yes.
I guess, you know, you're going to be, again, tight-lipped on what you might be doing, but the current investors can rest assured that you guys are going to be doing quite significant things that are going to really interest new investment coming in, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is true. So we've got would you like to talk about marketing? Because I've been running my mouth too long.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I mean, it's a balance of a lot of things, I think, with marketing that we're coming out with too. You know, there's of course a slew of different videos we're aiming to get out there, traditional marketing, advertisements, articles, things like that, outreach, things, you know, plenty of different areas that we're reaching out to. You know, we're working with a lot of great people. I would say I know we have, of course, Ninja Promo, our marketing agency, who's working really hard to get us a lot of great influencers to partner with as well, to really just kind of spread everything out there. But I think a lot of it too is, you know, when people think marketing, a lot of people immediately think it's only YouTube, you know, or it's only a few videos or an article that happens. And a lot of marketing is just, you know, getting backlinks out there, talking, outreaching to other communities, sharing that journey, sharing, you know, what's going on in those next steps. And, you know, that's a lot of what we're doing right now too, is little things, little things here and there that ought to all add up to a bigger vision of spreading the name of what we are and what we're, you know, going to become. I think we have quite a few videos that are probably slated to come out. I know that like I said, we're trying to get some traditional marketing out there as far as advertisements, but a lot of that's more, you know, circled around when the Swytch token releases. You know, it's a lot easier to put advertisements on the likes of, you know, PooCoin and Dex tools and stuff like that. But, you know, we're working hard on getting articles out there too, you know, and creating those backlinks, creating those pieces of information. Another amazing thing that I see is community members. You know, I think a big key element people forget is, as a community, you know, that's 70,000 strong, you know, that's a huge marketing point right there, right? You have 70,000 people who can share what Swytch is, what Titano is, right? Just takes a few seconds, you know, to spread that word and bringing that energy. And I bring it back to the community side of things, bringing that energy back to the community, that excitement around the community makes them excited to then share their experiences of what they're ready for with everything coming.
Right. To interject for a second, because I'm going to ask a couple of questions, but I just want to announce that we're now running the giveaway. So if people want to head to the giveaway channel and react to the bot, we hit 100 listeners during this Q&A, which is fantastic. We've still got 97 in, so people are really interested in what you guys are saying.
And I tag on to Summit's conversation around marketing, because it's an area I'm always excited.
Yeah. Please, we'll circle back to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Titano, marketing is challenging, right? In crypto, most marketing is sort of direct response marketing. You see something, you buy the token. In a bear market, that suffers greatly. And one of the things that happened was when we were doing that, right? Doing the traditional things. Hey, I saw this on KuCoin. I saw this on CoinMarketCap trending. All of those things, which are very expensive, and and they just stopped giving results. And it gave us an opportunity to kind of back away and say, okay, how do we want to approach marketing? And as Summit mentioned, we went out and we hired one of the biggest digital crypto market focused digital marketing firms. Boy, that's a mouthful. Ninja Chromo, this work with layer one blockchains, and they've had all sorts of success. If you go and take a look at their website, you'll be blown away by their clients. And with the idea of getting them to take a fresh look at who we are and offer their insight on what they thought we needed to do compared with projects that resembled what we were doing. Like, what do we need to do? How do we position ourselves? And how does that manifest itself in marketing? Right. At the same, so we have Ninja Promo that's been employed, been working with them for months. We're on with them daily. And as Summit mentioned, they're lining up a lot of things. It's influencers that we wouldn't be able to interact with. It's traditional type marketing on social media platforms and digital marketing stuff. At the same time, we developed our own in-house marketing, right? That because one of the challenges with dealing with a digital marketing firm is they're big, they're slow. Certain things don't make any sense. Certain things are just too darn expensive. You charge what for what? Oh no. So what we did was we found two titans that understand the protocol, love the project, and have marketing experience, successful marketing experience, and we brought them in. And so they are the ones that when we want to do something quick, right, they're on top of it, right? But we want to, get something out on Twitter or get something here, or change this and blah, 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 blah. We need this done in a couple of hours. So we've got this fast reaction marketing team. In addition to that, what they're also doing is there's certain elements that we want to build up within Titano. One is a database. We have, at one point, they did some details around how many people are interacting with, now it's the Swytch and the Titano websites. The numbers are astounding. And so we're now beginning to capture a lot of that data that we can use to improve our marketing plans and our marketing plans going forward. So a lot of this stuff is happening, and it's a dual type of marketing, right? So we're still doing things like we're doing, this week, Summit and I and John, we're doing some AMAs on Telegram, right? With the traditional Telegram groups that get there, they're DJ groups. So we're doing all of that, and it'll be traditional marketing, but also we're doing standard marketing. Things that might take, not everyone responds to seeing something one time. Some people need to see it 10 times. So we're going to do those things. I mentioned creating the other website. So all of this stuff is going into an infrastructure to provide for continuous marketing, right? Not stop and start, but continuous marketing. Now, there needs to be a caveat, right? Just because you see something somewhere doesn't mean that it's effective. I'll give you an example. Or just because you don't see something somewhere, it doesn't mean that nothing's going on. So I said this in the Titano whale group chat. So last week, Titano removed the buy tax and rebasing, and the price went up over a period of time. I think it nearly 3x, if I'm not mistaken, Summit. I think so. What we were doing in the background was we were making phone calls, and we were letting a lot of people who had been sitting on the side and wondering, we were explaining to them what was going on. And I can tell you that while John and I won some of the phone calls, people were going, man, I'm buying the token. That's marketing. That's marketing. No one was seeing it, right? It wasn't an ad on KuCoin, but it's marketing. So it can get a lot more sophisticated than people might think. But marketing's always evolving, always a challenge. You got to stay on top of it. We're staying on top of it.
I think it speaks to how well everything is being thought out just by the manner with which you're explaining, even down to marketing and how you're approaching it, is that you guys, you're you're obviously learning from the mistakes made in the past, and you guys freely admit mistakes were made in the past, and you are cognizant you don't want to repeat them. You're aware there are going to be mistakes moving forward, but you want to place yourself in a place where these mistakes are not going to be catastrophic, and they're not going to be so detrimental to the protocol that people are going to be screaming about it. Inevitably, mistakes are going to happen. How you deal with those mistakes is key. And one of the things I've heard you say over and over again is that it is information based. Give me the data. Let's stop. Let's take a beat. Let's react once we've looked at the data as to the effect of the mistake, what happened, how it happened, and learn from it and move forward to make it, have it make us stronger. And I think people should really pick up on that.
Yeah, there've been a lot of mistakes, man. You couldn't launch one of these things because it's all fertile ground. And like I said, you're cutting the weeds, and then all of a sudden there's a hole in the ground, and you couldn't have seen it. And now you have to react. And what I look for, as I've worked with projects throughout the years, is how do people respond? Right? A lot of people in those situations just freeze. Right? I've consulted projects here where that's happened. They're frozen, and these guys move, and that is a winning quality. It just is. So it's not that I don't like to dwell on mistakes. I don't have time to sit here and not get out of bed. I gotta keep this thing moving, right? We have a lot of people that we're responsible for. So yeah, we look at it, we go, what went wrong, how do we make it better next time, and we move. Right. And there are a lot of things with this protocol where, it's completely unforeseen. We didn't anticipate people FOMOing in after we had 45, 50,000 holders. We didn't anticipate the tsunami of all of this misinformation and trying to counter it. And yeah, people ask me, what do you think we did wrong? I think we took too long to try to counter that information. Right. We shouldn't have tried to fight it. We should have just left it alone. But I spent 2 months on this spree where I was like, no. If people just hear the real stuff, then they'll understand. And they didn't. It was a foregone conclusion, and they did a great job in nullifying anything that we were saying. Right? Yeah, you can have a debate point about where you think Titano should have stopped rebasing or pivoted. That's fair. But to say I can show you videos in February where you've got YouTubers saying Titano's done this month. There's a video in March where the guy says on this day the entire project will collapse. February, March, April, May, and they're speaking in certain terms. Not I have an idea or I think blah 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 blah. So I was like, well, if I point out now it's April, if I just show people that the same thing this paid person is saying now was said February was wrong, March was wrong, and there's no retraction videos, that people will go, oh, okay, and it just that was a miscalculation. We waited too long. And so, yeah, there are a lot of mistakes made, but that's going to happen. And yeah, you learn from them. You incorporate that understanding into what you do going forward, but you keep your mind and your eye on that if we do nothing, then everyone's in trouble. Right? If I can't get out of bed because I'm hurt and I'm all in my feelings. Oh man, I can't believe it. I'm not that kind of a person. I've never been that kind of a person. And I say to people like in our community, right? It's challenging because, like I said, I don't know if you're coming at me with this FUD, if you're a Titan, if you're not, if you're being employed by another project. I say that to people. Summit can attest. It's happened where people have come in our chats with the express purpose of collapsing the project. So now I'm in this tough situation, and when it's if it doesn't stop, I say to them, listen, where would you like for me to leave this conversation mentally? Because when I leave you after you're calling me a scam artist and a bullshitter and all this sort of stuff, I gotta go and get on a call with someone that's trying to generate revenue for us. I mean, where do you want my mental state? So yeah, ask your question, but let's do it in such a way where I can get you an answer where it's productive. Now, if I don't get you an answer, that's a different story. But we're dealing with humans here, the mods, and they're just taking it over and over and over again. I'm like, you don't want that. You want these guys to be on the up and up, right? Summit's got them in the weekly chat, and they're going, man, we're just being blindsided, with all of this stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's not happening now, but that's what you're involved in, holder. That's what you're involved in. That's your part of this. Keep this stuff as positive as you can. I'm not saying, well, mute yourself and all of that, but you're funding your own project. You are making it more difficult for the people that are working for you to bring you value. That's my approach to it. It's easy to turn that around. Oh, David, you just don't want to be, like I'll tell people, let's do this in a private chat. Oh, you don't want everyone to see? No, people misinterpret things. Go into the private chat. If I don't answer every question you have, you reserve the right to come back in here and have this conversation. But in the meantime, you have to think about your own motivations. Why is it so important for you to do that in front of everyone if all you want is an answer? You want everyone to see the answer? Get it from me in a private chat and then put it in the chat. But having to go through all of this stuff and now people are afraid. And yeah, what does that mean? Now I've got to spend an hour in there explaining to people and calming them down over your misinformation. There was a person that put up that, Titano had taken $1.5 million out of the treasury and was 100% certain and putting all this information. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? You don't understand. You guys are all, under their spell. And it turned out that he was looking at the wrong wallets. It was a portion of time out of my day to have to deal with that. And I never, you'll see, I don't put people down. I try to appease them. But, this is the investor role. You've got to, like I tell people, this is not about, gossiping and Twitter and, and I want to say this. And, and I say this to everyone. I've said this a bunch of times. This is not a democracy. These chats are not for you to come in and be able to say whatever you want. Right? The mod's job is to make sure that a discussion doesn't come up that will crash the project. I've seen it happen. Some misinformation gets spread and it crashes the project. Their job is, if it's going down that road, you get that person out of there or you're going to be fired. I'm telling them to do that. That's not them. Well, he banned me. Well, what did you do? Well, you can't do that here. Yeah, but I'm a holder. That's not what this is. This is for you to come to interact with other people, ask questions, offer suggestions, make some criticisms, not to come here and just say whatever you want to say. That's detrimental to what we all want to get accomplished here. Now, I get it. There's a balance, but we offer that to anyone. Bring it. It. Tell me in 16 months one question that I haven't answered. There's not one. Tell me something that got put to the devs and they haven't answered. Accusation, criticism, everything. They do it. So that can't be the issue. So if then it's just about, well, I want, and I get it, I got David in a public forum. Let me show everyone how smart I am. I'm not here for that. I'm just not. I'm not here for that. I'm here to do everything that I can to make this project succeed. And if it's one person against all these other holders, you know how this is going to go. And even if that means, like I've told people who, when they get banned, they come to me, I said, look, you're detrimental to your own investment. It's better for you to not be in the chat. Think about it like that.
Yeah, and I think often, like you said, a lot of these questions are designed to bring protocols down, and some people go in just to ask difficult questions, not because they want to hear the answer, but because they want to seem like they are the smartest person in the room.
That's absolutely right.
And they have thought about every avenue that you haven't, not realizing that, if you're doing that, and I have been that person myself, if you're doing that, you're probably not the smartest person in the room.
It's one of the reasons why I'm not in the chats as often anymore, because I realize I attract that, and I don't want to be that for anybody, even for the person that's doing it. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want you to feel like you have to confront me, or like when you say something and I go, listen, you don't have all your facts. Let me help you. And well, why are you talking to me? Like, I don't. So that's one of the reasons why I moderate my time in the chats, because I realize I attract that. People, oh, he's here. Let me do. I'm not here for that, guys. So yeah, it's. I hope what's coming through are two things, right? How complicated this is, but at the same time, how prepared we are to take all this stuff on. Right? I'm honored. I'm honored, man, to be around this team of these guys, and no one's broken. We're just still here and pushing and pushing and pushing. And like you said, making tons of mistakes, but learning from them and getting better. And, and so many amazing stories, what's happened with Titano. And there's this, something I talked about it, like there's this bittersweet thing of retiring it. Right. Because so many people love it. And I've had all these messages, man, you guys are going to get rid of Titano. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But that's what I tell people. When you're here, yeah, focus on making money, but make some friends too. I've made a ton of friends, right, on this journey. And people, there's a guy coming out here in a couple of days that I met, and he's coming here to visit me. So I'm like, so it's amazing. It's increased the quality of my life, and I hope that for everybody, as we all get paid. That's what you should get out of this space. We're proving that we could all work together. I mean, if you would have said that you're going to get these people from different countries, races, religions, all these things working together, no one would have believed that. It's happening in this space. And we should all be proud of that. Yeah, lots of problems, lots of things we got to work, do, fix, make better. I get it. But that part of it, that's the foundation for change. Being able to work together in spite of your differences. So yeah, that's what motivates me. That's what keeps me going. And that's what keeps me excited. I've never been in an industry like this in my entire life. John brought me in here and he said, David, you are going to love this. And I didn't know what he was talking about, but I trusted him. And man, 3 months in, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for all my life. Like a business area where the foundation is empowering people. Oh my, I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it. And I'm asking all of us, this is what I always say towards the end of these things. Don't talk yourself out of what's happening. If someone would have told you 3 years ago or before you got into crypto that 200 people could get together and make money, you would call that person an insane person. 200 people can get together and you can take that money that you make and pay your rent. That's crypto.
Right. And I echo that sentiment, and I've made some fantastic friendships that I won't lose from this space. And it sounds strange to say because often you've not met these people in person or you've not even seen them, but you can really form connections around a common goal. And like you say, it's empowering, wanting to empower people. And certainly your approach is going to empower your investors because of the way you're handling how you're going to be moving into this new space. And I don't see it as a pivot per se. I think the word pivot is often grossly overused. It's a restructure, and that restructure is powerful because it means you've taken what you already had and you're now structuring it into something that's going to be even stronger moving forward.
Right. Our agenda with Swytch is we want to be a top 5 DEX on the Binance Smart Chain. And what that means is right now, today, I think it's somewhere around $4 million in volume a day, right? That's our midterm goal. So when I talk about that year, right, we hope to be there much sooner than that. But that's how we see ourselves. And we want like I said, we want to 5X this community, 6X, 7X this community. We want to then deploy that community around the crypto space, right? We want to deploy that community outside of the crypto space. When you have that sort of a foundation, that's sort of an asset, you can leverage yourself into businesses, right? You can leverage yourself into markets. Think about it. We get enough people together, we can buy car insurance together. Right. So that's the bigger aim of people coming together and working together for a common goal. So yeah, it's going to be difficult, right? We've got a traditional finance industry that is determined. I said this last night. Jamie Dimon, the most powerful banker in the world, goes to the World Economic Forum. He's got 15 minutes to talk about anything in the world. He's got the world looking at him. And what does he talk about? Crypto. That tells you how much of a threat we are, all of us are, to that traditional banking system where none of us benefit from it, right? That's what this is. And it's amazing. It is just, it's never happened in my lifetime, in our lifetimes, but it's here right in front of us. Don't give up on this. Yeah, it's going to be hard, up and down and around and around and, and FTX and all of this crap. But, the guy that got me into crypto, right, who introduced me to it is a crypto economist. And he explained to me that, because I didn't get it, right? Because I was stuck on you're going to make new money? How is that going to happen? And what he said to me was, don't look at it like that. Look at it like innovations. And whenever an innovation is a true innovation, it always happens, right? The automobile, right? The internet, right? All of these things and many, many others, right? The mobile phone that are true innovations, they always happen. The only question is, like if you could go back when the car got introduced, I bet there were horse and buggy companies going, what? An automobile, they're dangerous, they're noisy, right? The tires blow and you're dead, right? All of these things, right? They were fighting against it. And a lot of people were genuinely afraid of the change that it brought on. I like my horse, right? My horse is my friend. You know, I feed him and I pet him. Yeah, but this is innovation, right? This is new money. And as importantly, it's a new business paradigm where we as individuals get to control ourselves, right? We get to decide, right? Remember how where this industry came from, right? It came out of the 2008 financial crisis where everyone was doing the right thing, staying on the right side of the law, working hard, putting our kids in good school, saving money. And a few bankers collapsed the entire world, made everybody's money get devalued. And then what happened? Who went to jail? Do you know how an entire thing where trillions of dollars just vanished? One person went to jail. And then every major government bailed out the banks. So not only did they lose all our money, we actually paid them to get back in business. And people walked away from that going, something's not right here. And that created crypto. That's why I say people come here because they want freedom. They want to have some power. And that's what this business area offers. It doesn't have to be Titano. You know, I when people ask me what should I take away from Titano, I said we focused on getting investors to not run when there's a problem. That's valuable at every single crypto project. And Titano focused on that. And I'm not saying we're the only ones we created that, but I think we had a good hand in it, right? A lot of people talk about their communities. And when I talk with people, it's like, what did you guys do? And it's like, we focused on investor comfort. You know, taking the question. You know, I go into these discords and I see, you know, holders, project devs, you know, putting down their community. You know, that's a dumb question. Why would you ask that? You know, so, you know, it's interesting because all of it is part of like this complete circle of things that have to happen, and it all has to go right. You know, am I saying we've got it right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we're focusing on the right things that can get it right. Now we have to execute. Right. And I'm happy to report, you know, this project isn't run by egomaniacs and I got it. That's not how this works. Right. These are guys that, and I'm proud of them for that. They grew up, they matured on this project, and they're always ready to like look at another way. You know, what do you guys think? You know, we'll open the suggestions. What do you think we should do? And that to me, like over my business career, has always equaled to success. So,
and I agree.
So,
I agree with that sentiment, and you know, I've been in those projects where the team lead, creator, CEO, whatever they want to call themselves, is always talking down to people and making them feel silly. You know, some of those projects are notorious rebasing protocols that took their lead from you guys.
Oh,
so,
no.
you know, hopefully you guys are the trailblazers now in terms of how you manage communities. I'm aware we've been going now for almost 3 hours, so I'm going to close it out.
Oh, my Lord.
I know. And the numbers are growing, I might add. So we're now 116
because people are like, David's still talking? I don't believe that.
How long can he go?
We want to witness history.
To close out, I've got a question for Summit. Because I know, you know, David and I could go on probably for another 3 hours, and we kind of heard his feeling from this.
It's smart to ask him, right?
What point? What are you most excited about? And you know, I understand the community engagement, the community sentiment. You know, seeing it launch, but just from your personal point of view, what are you most excited about seeing happen to Titano, Swytch? And what do you think it's going to feel like, having been through all of this history? What do you think it's going to feel like when you finally get to that point?
Yeah, I think for me, at least personally here, the most excitement I see coming out of Swytch is just truthfully the possibilities that comes out of it. I look at Swytch as just a humongous ecosystem, okay, that just provides solutions, opportunities for so many people, so many projects, so many everything. Okay, I look at just for myself, being able to take in, do future tradings and things like that all on one platform. I like the idea of the launch pad. I just love the idea of Swytch as a whole, where it's going, what opportunities it opens up for everybody. I mean, you'll hear me say, because I really am, it's like I'm a community person. That's what I'm here. That's why I'm here. I love the community. So, I mean, for me too, seeing how everything that we're coming out with is going to impact that community is huge for me as well. I know you said not to say that, but it's true. It's true. I really look forward to that. But I really am looking forward to seeing where the ecosystem can go, where the growth can go, because Swytch in itself, I mean, if we put the DEX aside, the token itself opens up huge possibilities for where it can go as a currency, where it can go, what chains it can reach, what exchanges it can get listed on. So the possibilities on that are truly endless with that. And then you take into account a whole decentralized exchange that is kind of breaking down all the other ones. And, now you have all of these features in one, and it's clean, it's nice. It's got a solid community behind it, and it just keeps evolving and keeps growing. I look at it as just Swytch is just an endless future possibility generator machine. That's really what I look at.
Great. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you both, and I could go on for hours and hours. I hope we do this again. I hope I can have you guys back in.
Yeah.
And we can try for another 3-hour marathon, because there's so much more.
Let's go for 4. Come on.
Yeah. But I know that people might be frustrated that you haven't necessarily dropped absolute clear as day alpha. But if people listen back to the recording, they're certainly going to be able to hear the nuggets of information that you've dropped through.
Right.
And I think if people are able to read between the lines, they'll be able to pick up on what you guys have coming, and it's got the potential to be absolutely huge for you guys. So I'm really excited to see what happens there.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You are appreciated. I love these types of discussions where we can have, in some cases, tough questions, and we can just have a chance to talk honestly about all of it. I'm always mindful, right? My tone, like sometimes I'll do these impromptu AMAs because I'll be writing in the Discord, and it's a lot of writing. I'm like, guys, can we just go in a room? And so there might be 10 people writing to me, and immediately when I go in the room, there's only one person talking, right? Because that's the environment. And all of a sudden I'm scary and I'm confrontational. Well, David, you're a good talker, so I don't want to say anything. Or maybe English is not their first language. Like I tell people a lot of times in these chats, if you're running a project and someone's saying something, it may not necessarily be FUD. What I've learned is there are a lot of people in our community that don't speak English. They're literally going to Google Translate and translating something and putting it in the chat. And when they do that, it can come off as very aggressive. So whenever I hear something, or in that particular situation, so what I'll tell people to do is, listen, go back to the chat where you were typing, type it, and then someone else bring that question in here and I'll answer it verbally. So I'm always mindful that when I'm talking, my goal isn't to dominate people, it's to inform them, because I genuinely believe that informed people are going to make better decisions, and they will look at us in a great way, right? So that's what part of this is. We've always been about educating. I'm happy with Swycch.services because that's going to be an education component to what we have going on. And it's not just going to help us, right? I'm telling you, and we all have to or should accept this. Each of the projects that have the ability or had the good fortune to sustain, we have to make as part of our moving forward how we make the environment better for other projects to sustain. It's critical. We can't just be thinking about, oh, this is going to be great for us. We got to think about this is going to be great for everyone. It's going to set up a platform. It's going to show people a way to move along. It was one of the downsides, of having such a successful project is we just kept getting copied, and people would take our good intentions. I think I told you this before. I listened to an AMA on YouTube where someone had literally transcribed what I had said, and they were repeating it. So I hear my words coming out of someone else's mouth, and it was a rug pull. And it's like, my gosh. So, our taking on making this space better right? It helps everybody. It helps us. So, as I'm talking, I'm trying to as well get people, to recognize that case is going on. So I'm not just talking to people who might be interested in investing in Swytch. I'm talking to people that are developing projects. Take some extra time, right? Go outside of your core team of people who are rah, 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 and get some hard questions answered. Tell people to be honest with you, especially if you're paying those people. They're not going to be honest with you. Go outside of it, people you're not paying, and say, hey, man, what have I got? Dude, you got nothing. And if they know what they're talking about, listen to them. And then if you really want to do something, go back and create something. That helps everyone, including you. Making a little bit of fast money and then you're ruined, or you've got now an investor audience that is more skeptical, more cynical. That's a bad way of approaching this thing. There are massive opportunities if you're just interested in wealth generation for everyone. So, I want people to know that as we're talking about this, we are taking responsibility, that we've been around for a long time. We've grown bigger than most projects ever grew. Right? We are responsible. That's built into that. Just like I said, if you look at, if the holders look at what Swytch is, it's all of that suggestion box information that we've looked at and said, the community really wants this. And we're excited because you guys are right. You guys are right. So yeah, it's a brand new era, scary as hell, but exciting as hell. I like new stuff. So I really appreciate this, and having again an ability to have a unfiltered conversation where nothing is off limits. You can tell people we didn't give you a list of questions, we didn't tell you what you could ask or say or anything like that. I've never done that with anyone. Ask me what you want.
It's our pleasure. It's what we're all about here, and those are the kind of discussions that are most valuable to people, rather than just firing off questions, expecting a one-sentence answer and getting through it in 45 minutes, right? Because this entire process wasn't only 45 minutes long, so how on earth can anybody anticipate that you can explain it in such a short space of time? And I love what you guys are doing with your hub. I love that you guys are looking at it as a hub where everything can happen. In terms of our space, we're going to be dropping some very interesting alpha news ourselves in terms of moving towards a hub, and we want to also create a space where people can have these open discussions with protocols like yourself, free, easy, and open. And have people just hang out and get all the information they need. So it's exciting stuff, and I've really appreciated the talk.
Excellent. Summit, take us out.
Oh gosh. No, I really appreciate it. And I love coming on here, being able to talk, kind of go through things and share everything on this. And one of the first AMAs I've been able to be present on here, outside of, like our internal talk. So I really appreciate you not reaming me in and taking all the hard hits on me with that one. So I appreciate that a ton. But no, it really is great talking in these spaces, being able to reach, whether it be new communities or new people, or just speak to existing people who've known, where we are and where we're going. But really, thank you so much for having myself on board. Thank you so much for having David on board, and really looking forward to, having these talks in the future, and being able to do something again.
Absolutely. And also with what you're doing, if, we encourage you, if you're doing something that aligns with what we're doing, let's talk about how we can do it together, right? And make it bigger and better and more effective for everyone in the space. Wide open to that and welcoming of that.
Yeah.
Great. And I love that idea. And hopefully we're going to be speaking lots. I look forward to it. I look forward to, having that relationship with you guys.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you to your community. Thank you for all the people who've been here and put up with us running our mouths for such a long time. It's appreciated. Just thank you, guys. And to the Titan community, you're loved, respected, and appreciated, and that will always be at the center of what we're doing. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Take care.
All right.
Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.